Chapter 1040. She has a bad temper. Night Sorrow was a little speechless. This had nothing to do with Bei Xing, but Bei Xing was serious. She has a straightforward personality and can be considered a good friend, Shueshi said. Night Sorrow nodded. He also knew this. Bei Xing didn't have the temperament of some rich people. In this regard, Night Sorrow was very impressed with the upbringing of the king of the heaven mystic world. Qian Jinyu and his wife were both kings and had monarchs above them, but their children were not arrogant at all. The same was true for the Big Dipper King, which could be seen from Bei Xing. Of course, some exceptions were inevitable. Shang Zhengshun and Shang Zhengxian were examples, and so was Cang Wushang. However, the result was not good. Cang Wushang was now dead because of his arrogance, and Shang Zhengxian was also slapped in the face by Night Sorrow. Although he knew that the Gray Cloud sect was moving, Night Sorrow was still the same. He refined pills and weapons every day, and only rested when the goods in the Celestial Master Pavilion were all ready. For now, Night Sorrow still couldn't fight with the big forces. He wasn't a king, and whether it was the Gray Cloud sect or the Demon Moon Realm, they were all monarch-level forces. There were many kings under their command, which could be seen from the strength of the Tian dynasty. There were 3 known kings in the Tian dynasty: Shang Tianfeng, Yuan Qianba, and Gonyang Lai. Night Sorrow wasn't sure if there were others who hadn't shown up yet. What Yishang needed was time. For now, he had to endure and wait for his main body to cultivate. When his main body had comprehended and entered the Sovereign King realm, Yishang would not be afraid of opponents who were 3 levels higher than him. Not to mention whether they could fight, it would be impossible for them to kill him. Night Sorrow had his own considerations. When he hadn't comprehended the power of will, Gonyang Lai couldn't kill him even if he wanted to. With the will of space at 90% will, he was confident that he could fight Gonyang Lai. Once he entered the king realm with the time attribute, he would have no problem fighting a 2-star king. Time slipped away bit by bit. Night Sorrow's days were still very stable. When there were custom pills and weapons, he would work. The rest of the time, he would rest. Ning Yun and July often went out to gain experience, so no one knew them. As for safety, Night Sorrow had told him to do what he could. Although Night Sorrow missed his wife and parents very much, it was not the right time to move. If he moved, it might cause some trouble, and he would not be able to live a stable life anymore. In the blink of an eye, 5 years went by. On this day, he had just finished concocting a furnace of medicinal pills. Night Sorrow's body shuddered, and the aura emanating from his body began to change, bringing with it a hazy aura. It was a change in the flow of time. After 5 years of bitter cultivation in the Will of Time cave, Night Sorrow's comprehension of the Will of Time had entered 70%. This was because his main body had woken up from his meditation. Night Sorrow's clone had felt the change and felt it. "What's going on with you?" Wu Lingfei looked at Night Sorrow and asked. "My main body has woken up from his meditation. I have comprehended 70% of the Will of Time. I am now a half-step king," Night Sorrow said. "Then you are now a dual attribute half-step king?" Zhu Jiyun said with some excitement. "Yes, now I have something to do. Although I can't cultivate the basics, I can cultivate combat skills that combine the time and space attributes." Night Sorrow was indeed very bored now. Besides concocting some medicinal pills and weapons, he had nothing to do. Following this, the women prepared a table of food and wine to celebrate for Yishang. This was incredibly rare, and it could be said that Yishang had once again opened up a bright path for himself. This time, Night Sorrow drank a little too much. He was happy in his heart. With 2 types of will in his body, he believed that he had the strength to contend with a beginner king. In the following days, besides concocting medicinal pills and refining tools, Night Sorrow began to cultivate combat skills. He cultivated Heavenly Wilderness Absolute Kill, Space Slash, and Space Rend. Bei Xing often came to chat with Night Sorrow and the others. Their friendship gradually deepened. "Night Sorrow, there seems to be something wrong recently. The people from the Ashen Cloud sect can't find you. They seem to be in cahoots with the Sky South dynasty. The Sky South dynasty once again issued an arrest warrant for you. This is definitely not a coincidence. They're colluding with each other. Bei Xing said when he came to Night Sorrow's place to drink tea again. When I had a conflict with Sky South Dynasty's Shang Zhengxian on the stage, the people from the Ashen Cloud sect knew about it. Therefore, they couldn't find me. It's normal for them to ask the Sky South Dynasty for help. Night Sorrow said after thinking for a while. Trash. The internal grudges of the profound sky world can be resolved internally. Since you're doing this, I'll go and investigate further. You guys can continue living here peacefully. Also, I've already instructed the Heavenly Star restaurant to deliver banquets every night. Don't go out. Bei Xing left after speaking. Update, new, fastest. The situation is getting more and more serious. I don't know how much time will give us. Night Sorrow exhaled and said, Then how long will it take for you to enter the king's realm? Zhu Jian looked at Night Sorrow and asked, I don't know. The will of time is more difficult than the will of space. The speed will be slower. However, I will definitely be able to do it within 10 years. Night Sorrow said, I hope you can hide for another 10 years. As long as you enter the king's realm, the situation will change. Wu Lingfei said. Night Sorrow nodded. As long as he entered the king's realm, his strength would increase greatly. The elementary king's realm would no longer be afraid. In the past, Elder Xiang would sometimes come to Night Sorrow's place to talk to Night Sorrow. However, after the Sky South Dynasty intervened, Elder Xiang stopped coming. The main reason was that he didn't want to give others a chance to follow him. Of course, the possibility of him being discovered was very low. However, in the Great Thousand World, there were some races with average strength that were good at tracking and stalking. On this day, Wu Lingfei smiled and nodded at Night Sorrow. Aunt Fei, why are you so happy? Night Sorrow asked after concocting a cauldron of spirit enlightenment pills. My original body has broken through and entered the 7-star Saint King realm. Wu Lingfei said with a smile. Night Sorrow congratulated her and also asked about the situation in the 9 regions world. After asking, he found out that his parents' and wife's cultivation had increased greatly. This was because after entering the Saint realm, they could enjoy the time acceleration of the Time Pagoda, and their cultivation speed would increase greatly. Zhu Jiyun had also entered the peak Saint King realm half a year ago. However, because someone knew her, Night Sorrow didn't let her come to the sky profound world to comprehend. Night Sorrow guessed that there were already people from the opponent monitoring the 2 extreme city. You can rest assured about the matters at home. The clone has been successfully condensed. Everything is fine. Wu Lingfei said to Night Sorrow. That's good. Everything is fine at home. We're also working hard outside. Time. Give me more time. Night Sorrow took a deep breath. You don't need to be anxious. Now that we are here, they won't be able to find out anything. Therefore, everything is fine. Wu Lingfei said. Night Sorrow nodded. He still hoped that his original body could quickly comprehend. Chapter 1041. Song Wuzue was furious. After receiving the order from the sect, he had been searching for Night Sorrow in the profound sky world. If he could kill Night Sorrow and complete the mission, he would be valued by the Tsanyan monarch. However, it had been 5 years, and he couldn't even find Night Sorrow's shadow. How could Song Wuzue not be angry when killing a clone was so difficult? Everyone knew that Night Sorrow's main body was cultivating in the 9 Heavens Tower. The Tsanyan monarch's plan was to kill Night Sorrow's clone first, but it was useless now. After failing to find Night Sorrow and bribing the disciples of the Tianding Gate, Song Wuzue reported the situation to Song Qingyuan. Song Qingyuan thought for a moment and wrote a letter, asking Song Wuzue to discuss cooperation with the Tiannan dynasty. The Tiannan dynasty, who had planned to kill Night Sorrow, immediately agreed. They sent out people to search for Night Sorrow while continuing to hunt him down. The only genuine one, the rest were stolen copies. The Tiannan dynasty's actions made many people feel disgusted. They were like a dog that bit people in its nest. Night Sorrow was still very stable. If you can't find him, I'll continue to do business and hoard resources. In any case, my main body is still cultivating. At this time, the Big Dipper King and Bei Xing arrived at Night Sorrow's mansion. Night Sorrow was refining the 5-spirit pill. After calling Zhu Jiyun to receive the guests, Night Sorrow continued to refine pills. Father, our Celestial Master Pavilion's business is booming. The cultivators of the surrounding big forces all know that the Saint King pills and Saint King tools produced by our Celestial Master Pavilion are of top quality, Bei Xing said with a smile. And to be able to refine the weapon in your hand, his attainments in the field of arrays are also at the Saint King level. So there is no problem with the quality of the Saint King tools, the Big Dipper King said with a smile. All-round talent. Is this an all-round development? Bei Xing said with some surprise. Big Dipper King looked at Night Sorrow and nodded. At this moment, he had been observing Night Sorrow all this time because he could see the changes in Night Sorrow. It's rare for Big Dipper King to come here. Fortunately, I have some good tea here to entertain you. Night Sorrow took out the heart-cleansing tea and brewed a pot. Your original body has already gained insights. Big Dipper King asked. Yes, but I'm still trying to comprehend it. Night Sorrow nodded. That's still not right. I'm not trying to get to the bottom of this. I'm just curious. Do you have 2 types of wool now? Big Dipper King asked. Yes, before the first Sage Conference of 100 Worlds began, I had already comprehended 90% of the will of space. At that time, I forcefully stopped. This time, after entering the will of Heaven and Earth Cave, I didn't want to waste this opportunity, so I stopped comprehending the will of space and went to comprehend another will of heaven and earth. Night Sorrow hesitated for a moment and didn't hide it. Big Dipper King's style of doing things was principled. Night Sorrow knew this and felt that Big Dipper King wouldn't have any devious thoughts. You can stop 90% of the will of space. Apart from you, I don't know who else can do it. Now that the flow of time around you has changed, you should be comprehending the will of time. I have to admit that I'm impressed. Big Dipper King looked at Night Sorrow and nodded continuously. Many people couldn't restrain their desire to enter the king's realm, but Night Sorrow had done it. Many times in life, we are faced with choices. A momentary gain or loss is nothing. Night Sorrow poured a cup of tea for Big Dipper King and said, The fact that you can tell me this shows that you don't treat me as an outsider. Calm down and cultivate. I want to see what kind of waves they can stir up. Big Dipper King made a decision in his heart. He had to protect Night Sorrow. Thank you, Lord King. If there is really trouble, I will run. When I have the strength, I will deal with them one by one, Night Sorrow said with a smile. You are right. Life should be straightforward. Good tea. Big Dipper King said with a smile after taking a sip of tea. After chatting with Night Sorrow for a while, Big Dipper King left Night Sorrow's place with his daughter. The sky is changing, Big Dipper King said as they walked on the street. I don't quite understand what Father means. North Star shook her head. Night Sorrow has 2 high-level wills of the world. Any one of them can allow him to show disdain for those of the same level. He can fight and kill opponents of a higher level. Now that he has entered the king realm, it will be difficult for anyone to kill him. Helping Father on his path forward will be good for your future, Big Dipper King said as he patted the back of his daughter's head. He is indeed very strong. North Star also admired Night Sorrow. Without a backer, it was very difficult for him to reach his current level. His outlook on life is very righteous. He is not an evil person. He is a very good friend. Don't think about benefits in your heart. Try to get along with him wholeheartedly. This will be of great help to your future, Big Dipper King said to his daughter. Inside Night Sorrow's mansion, Night Sorrow was chatting with Wu Lingfei and the others. This Big Dipper King is a very righteous person, Zhu Jun said. Yes, to be able to raise such a righteous daughter like North Star, this means that there is no problem with his outlook on life. Night Sorrow nodded. In that case, we can still stay here peacefully for a while. Under the king's watch, the other party will not be able to act recklessly. They will also not be able to use their big moves to find us, Shueshi said. Our days are stable now. If we are discovered, we can't hide here. I will find another place. It won't be easy for them to find us even if we want to hide, Night Sorrow said with a smile. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Wu Lingfei and the others nodded. If Night Sorrow wanted to hide now, it would be very difficult for others to find him. Without any signs, Night Sorrow continued to cultivate. Every day, he would concoct pills, forge weapons, and cultivate battle skills. On this day, after Night Sorrow finished his cultivation, North Star came to drink tea. "Boss North Star, I haven't been here for a few days." Night Sorrow smiled and waved his hand. "Hee hee, you're the boss." North Star looked at Night Sorrow with disdain, sat down, and poured himself a cup of tea. North Star then told Night Sorrow that people from the Demon Moon world had also entered the Sky Profound world to investigate his background, and so on. "These bastards are here too. They are really shameless. I feel that the Demon Moon Monarch is the most shameless. His own people are not a match for him, and he still wants to fight," Shueshi said. "Big fist and shameless. You can be considered as the invincible type. Your days won't be good if you continue like this." North Star said, "Then what can I do? If there is no other way, I can only hide deep in the mountains and forests and not come out," Night Sorrow said. "What a useless idea. I have a backup mansion. If the other party comes here, you guys can go to my mansion. Would they dare to search my mansion? I don't believe it." North Star looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Then how can I repay you?" Night Sorrow asked, "Don't talk about repayment. That's not interesting. What do you think I lack?" North Star looked at Night Sorrow and said, "You have King as your father. What do you lack?" Night Sorrow muttered, "You idiot. It's not like I don't have armor now." North Star shouted at Night Sorrow. On the first day of the new year, Night Sorrow bowed to all the fans of Myriad Daos Ascension. "Thank you for your support for Myriad Daos Ascension in the past half a year. I wish you all the best in the new year and have a happy family." Chapter 1042. All right. Night Sorrow glanced at Bei Xing as he took out the blueprint. "Then wait a moment. I haven't decided yet," Bei Xing said with a smile. Night Sorrow nodded helplessly. Bei Xing said that he needed armor, so he had to refine it. After all, they were friends and did not care about benefits. After Bei Xing left, the people of the Heavenly Star Pavilion delivered the food to the Celestial Master Pavilion. The waiters of the Celestial Master Pavilion delivered the food to Night Sorrow's residence. This was arranged by Bei Xing, mainly because he did not want Night Sorrow's identity to be exposed. After eating and chatting with Wu Lingfei and the others, Night Sorrow continued to cultivate his space-time attribute battle skill. As the people of the Moon Demon realm joined the investigation, they discovered that Night Sorrow was last seen in Big Dipper City. After Cang Wuzue appeared in Big Dipper City, he was stopped by a sloppily dressed man. "Who are you? Why are you stopping me?" Cang Wuzue asked the sloppily dressed man. "Why am I stopping you? This is Big Dipper City, my master's territory. Who are you? How dare you barge in?" The sloppily dressed man said as he ran his fingers through his hair, "I am Cang Wuzue of Sky Dome Realm's Ashen Cloud sect. I am here to look for someone," Cang Wuzue said as he cupped his fists. "I only know Boundless Mountain in the Sky Dome realm. Go back to where you came from. Big Dipper City does not welcome you," the sloppily dressed man said impatiently as he waved his hand. "Is that necessary? I am here to look for someone." Cang Wuzue's expression changed. This sloppily dressed man was stronger than him. "Looking for someone? Big Dipper City does not welcome the Sovereign King. Others can come as they please. I don't care either. However, the Sovereign King cannot come." The sloppy man directly ordered the guests to leave. Cang Wuzue hesitated for a moment before leaving. He could not act strong. If he insisted on entering Big Dipper City, there would be a battle. A conflict between king and king would lead to a war between the two factions. "Who do you think you are to be so arrogant in our Big Dipper City?" The sloppily dressed man also left and went to the Heavenly Star restaurant. "Third senior brother, you've come." Bei Xing, who was drinking tea in Tian Xing building, said, "I'm here. I just chased away a fly. However, junior sister, you promised third senior brother that you'll give us enough good wine," the sloppy man said with a smile. "Of course, senior brother. You can drink if you want in the future. Besides, when have I ever been short of third senior brother's wine?" Bei Xing pulled the scruffy-looking man's arm and said. The sloppy man looked no different from a beggar, but his reputation in Big Dipper City was extremely high. His name was Greedy Wolf King. Third senior brother has seen that kid. Master didn't make a mistake. He's a very good young man. Greedy Wolf King followed Heavenly Star into a private room to drink. After Tsang Wuzue left Big Dipper City, he met with Yuan Qianba. Hearing Tsang Wuzue's words, Yuan Qianba was a bit worried. Big Dipper King was not someone to be trifled with. Sky South Dynasty did not have the strength, and they were not as strong as Big Dipper City. The problem is that Night Sorrow is very likely to be in Big Dipper City. Now that they're blocking us, we can't use force, Yuan Qianba said. This is a stalemate. It's useless to send out peak Holy Kings and half-step King level Holy Kings. No one is a match for him. Tsang Wuzue sighed. Night Sorrow was the strongest Holy King. He was the strongest person below King level. If the King did not come to Big Dipper City, it would be useless to meet Night Sorrow. Your Grey Cloud sect is using a one-on-one revenge method. Since Big Dipper City is blocking us, you can go back and ask the Grey Cloud Monarch to step in. Yuan Qianba thought for a moment and gave Tsang Wuzue some ideas. Tsang Wuzue nodded. This was the only thing he could do. After hearing Tsang Wuzue's report, the Grey Cloud Monarch's eyes were filled with coldness. All right, I'll take you there. Let's see who dares to block us. The Grey Cloud Monarch thought for a moment and made a decision. When the Grey Cloud Monarch and Tsang Wuzue came out of the World Teleportation Array, an old man in a brocade robe appeared in front of them. It was the Black Heaven Monarch. Grey Cloud, you've crossed the line, the Black Heaven Monarch said coldly. It's not that I've crossed the line. It's your profound sky world that doesn't abide by the rules. Wuzue wants to go to Big Dipper City, but they stopped him. Isn't this inappropriate? My Grey Cloud sect only sent a 2-star monarch. This is within the rules. Now that your monarch has interfered, we will continue to send people, the Grey Cloud Monarch said. Go back to your Grey Cloud sect. I'll take care of things here. Remember, if you dare to touch anyone other than Night Sorrow, I won't let your people go back alive, the Black Heaven Monarch said coldly. The Grey Cloud Monarch snorted and left on the teleportation array. He came to open the path to Big Dipper City. It was against the rules for the Big Dipper City King to block the way. Afterward, the Grey Cloud Monarch called Qian Jinyu and told him to inform the Big Dipper King not to interfere with the Grey Cloud sect's entry. However, if anyone broke the rules in Big Dipper City, they would be killed immediately. Inside Big Dipper City, Qian Jinyu told the Big Dipper King about his intentions and the Black Heaven Monarch's intentions. There's nothing we can do. Tell the Monarch that if it doesn't work, we'll just fight. Don't think we're afraid of them, the Big Dipper King said. Forever, P-free hashtag. It's true. We're not afraid, but the consequences of fighting are too severe. Let's not fight with them for now. We just need to protect Night Sorrow, Qian Jinyu said. Night Sorrow is indeed in Big Dipper City. I'll think of a way to protect him. However, the Sky South Dynasty is too hateful. Aren't they betraying us? The Big Dipper King said angrily. We'll talk about them after this matter is resolved. They really have no bottom line. Qian Jinyu was also very angry. Okay, then we'll wait for the monarch's arrangements. The Big Dipper King nodded. After sending Qian Jinyu off, the Big Dipper King went to Night Sorrow's mansion. Without saying anything, he wrapped Night Sorrow in energy and left the mansion. A moment later, he brought Night Sorrow to his courtyard. Lord Monarch, what happened? Night Sorrow asked. The problem is a little serious. Some time ago, my disciples stopped the other party's king from entering Big Dipper City. As a result, they said that Big Dipper City broke the rules. The Tsangyan Monarch came personally. If I stopped them again, a war would be inevitable. A war wouldn't benefit anyone, so we can only take a step back. They can investigate Big Dipper City if they want to. You just stay here with me. The Big Dipper Monarch explained to Night Sorrow what had happened recently. Then it's not appropriate for me to stay here. If it doesn't work out, I'll leave. I'll go back to our small world and let them do what they want, Night Sorrow said after thinking for a moment. You can't go back now. Their people should already be in Two Polarity City. The Demon Moon Realm and the traitorous Sky South Dynasty must have thought of this. You just stay here. Who would dare to investigate my lair? The Big Dipper King said with a smile. Chapter 1043. Just stay here. They won't be that bold. Bei Xing has also appeared. She was very happy to see Night Sorrow and the others. Then I'll have to trouble Big Dipper King. Night Sorrow will remember your help today. Night Sorrow cupped his hands at Big Dipper King. You and Bei Xing are friends, so you're naturally my junior. It's only right that you take care of her. If I shrink back today, how am I supposed to face my heart in the future? Am I supposed to regret my decision every day and night? Big Dipper King looked at Night Sorrow and said. Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that this was Big Dipper King. Big Dipper King patted Night Sorrow's shoulder and said, It's true that the current world of cultivators is a mess, but no matter what others do, we should all have a beautiful, pure land in our hearts. If you want to thank me, then take care of my immature daughter. Big Dipper King patted Night Sorrow's shoulder. Lord King, you're exaggerating. I've met many of your disciples. Not only does Miss Bei Xing not have an arrogant aura, she's also very generous. Night Sorrow said with a smile. That's good. You youngsters can continue chatting. I still have some matters to take care of. Remember, if you hear the sound of wind chimes, it means that someone is investigating. You must immediately hide. After giving his instructions, the North Star Sovereign left. Come, let's go to my place. It's usually empty and quiet. It'll be lively with you guys here. Bei Xing pulled Wu Lingfei and led them to her courtyard. She then called for the servants to prepare tea for them. I'll help you refine a defensive armor in the next few days. Night Sorrow said. There's no rush. You're here as guests. Bei Xing said with a smile. Night Sorrow, the manor doesn't occupy a large area. If the other party uses their soul power to investigate carefully, they'll find something. Wu Lingfei said. This is really a drawback, but there's nothing we can do about it. Let's wait until they dare to investigate. Bei Xing said. But if we are discovered, it will bring trouble to your father. I wonder if it would be convenient for me to set up an isolation array here? Night Sorrow asked. Sure. Not being discovered is good for everyone. If you are discovered, it will be troublesome for my father. North Star nodded. After that, Night Sorrow began to set up the 1,000 Development Illusory Formation. At this moment, Night Sorrow had already changed the 1,000 Development Illusory Formation. It was a Peak Saint King formation. After setting up Night Sorrow, he clapped his hands. Everyone, stay alert. As long as you hear the wind chimes, you can throw your spirit stones into the ground. The array will instantly activate and isolate us from detection. Bei Xing was very surprised. Although she heard from her father that Night Sorrow could refine a Saint King weapon, he must be a Saint King formation master. But Night Sorrow's speed in setting up the array was too fast. Although she didn't know the effect, there was no doubt about it. After that, Night Sorrow asked Bei Xing for the armor blueprint. Originally, Night Sorrow wanted to help Bei Xing refine the armor with his own materials, but Bei Xing had already prepared the materials. Looking at the blueprint that Bei Xing took out, Night Sorrow first used ordinary materials to refine a spirit armor. After the experiment was successful, Night Sorrow began to refine the armor. Bei Xing took the spirit armor that Night Sorrow had refined first and studied it. It took a lot of time to refine a high-grade armor. Yishang used 7 days to refine a high-grade Saint King artifact armor. After Bei Xing took the armor and recognized it as its owner, she put it on. The silver armor suited Bei Xing very well. You have 3 attributes, and the armor also has 3 attributes. As for how to use it, that's your problem. Night Sorrow said. With that, Yishang picked up the test piece of armor on the table and threw it into the crafting furnace. What are you doing? Bei Xing stretched out her arm and caught the armor in her hand. A spirit armor is useless. This armor is not suitable for others to use. It's better to break it down into materials. Night Sorrow said, What a wastrel. This is a spirit armor. I'll keep it. Bei Xing put the spirit armor into her storage ring. It's not convenient for me to go to the Celestial Master Pavilion now. Go take a look and see if there are any custom orders. Bring them back for me to refine. Also, collect the space iron and time purple sand. Night Sorrow said to Bei Xing, Why do you collect the space iron and time purple sand? I think I have time purple sand in my warehouse. Bei Xing thought for a moment and said, I also want to make an armor for myself. I need materials that are compatible with my attributes. But it's too difficult. Night Sorrow said. Okay, I'll arrange it. Bei Xing said and left. Night Sorrow. How was the original body's comprehension going? Wu Lingfei asked Night Sorrow. The original body is still comprehending. Because the soul power is all-comprehending, it can't synchronize with the clone. I don't know what it is. Night Sorrow shook his head. Don't worry. We should be safe here. I don't think the people of the Grey Cloud sect are brave enough to come to Big Dipper King's place to investigate. Zhu Jian said. Night Sorrow nodded. Big Dipper King wasn't the new king. He was the leader of a force. Some new kings wouldn't dare to mess around. While Night Sorrow was cultivating, Bei Xing returned. Here, this is the time purple sand I found in my warehouse. I don't have any spatial essence iron. Also, here are the blueprints and materials for custom-made weapons. Bei Xing placed a few items on the table. Night Sorrow opened a bag and saw that it was filled with thumb-sized purple stones. This was the time purple sand that Bei Xing had mentioned. It was an extremely precious material. Bei Xing, this isn't appropriate. Night Sorrow said. Did you ask for compensation for refining my armor? Did I mention anything about compensation? Now that I've pointed out the materials, you're saying it's not appropriate? Do you think of me as a friend? Bei Xing looked at Night Sorrow angrily. Fine, don't be angry. I'll take it. I'll take it, Night Sorrow said with a smile. Friends don't bicker about this. However, we won't be able to eat a big meal. The Sky South Dynasty's lackeys, Moon Demon World's people, and Grey Cloud Sect's people have all arrived at Big Dipper City. It's best to be careful. Don't worry. We just eat to find a feeling. As for cooking, they can do it too, Night Sorrow said with a smile. It's just that I feel a little aggrieved. These people are too hateful. They can't even afford to play. What happened to the first sacred ceremony of the 100 Worlds? And now they're swaggering around to take revenge. Their faces have been eaten by dogs. Bei Xing cursed angrily. It's fine. Let them do what they want. I'll settle this account with them. However, I don't have the strength right now, so I have to endure, Night Sorrow said. Good attitude. Let's not talk about the Grey Cloud sect and Moon Demon World for now. Sky South Dynasty must be dealt with. They're too despicable. I've never seen such despicable people. Their king has also arrived at Big Dipper City. It can be said that they've already shed all pretense of cordiality, Bei Xing said. Chapter 1044. If they do this, won't they become the public enemy of the Sky Profound World? Night Sorrow asked. V Genuine first release. The Emperor of the Sky South Dynasty didn't show up. When the time comes, he can say that his subordinates acted on their own. After the other party retreats, who can find trouble with them? You? You don't have the ability, and the other forces aren't willing to fight to the death with them. If they fight to the death with the Sky South Dynasty, they will also suffer great losses. This is the Sky South Dynasty's plan. Bei Xing analyzed for Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow thought for a moment, and knew that the truth was just as Bei Xing said. Indeed, no one was willing to fight to the death with the Sky South Dynasty. Not the Tianding Gate, not the Big Dipper City. After all, the Sky South Dynasty had several kings. My father also told me that the old Emperor of the Sky South Dynasty is a very upright person. His cultivation is also a high-level king's. However, the Sky South Dynasty is different from before. If anyone wants to touch the Sky South Dynasty, they have to consider the old Emperor. Bei Xing told Night Sorrow some unknown things. Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that the old Emperor of the Sky South Dynasty was Yi Qianhua's grandfather. He was a very famous king in the Sky Profound World. At the same time, Night Sorrow also understood that he didn't have any backing or background. It was rare for someone to be willing to protect him. So the Sky South Dynasty wasn't worried that someone would stand up for Night Sorrow. You still have to work hard. When you enter the king's realm, the situation will change, and they will be afraid. Bei Xing said. Strength. Night Sorrow understood that everything depended on strength. With strength, everything would change. After that, Night Sorrow continued to forging the custom-made list that Bei Xing gave him. Right now, the Celestial Master Pavilion was very famous and had a good reputation. It had a great reputation in the surrounding regions. In the sky-profound world, there were some kings, but Saint Kings were the mainstream of cultivators, so there was a great demand for Saint King's tools. Refining a normal Saint Ruler artifact was different from refining weapons and armors for Bei Xing. It wasn't as complicated. Night Sorrow could refine one every 3 to 4 days. Once it was done, Night Sorrow would hand it over to North Star. Normally, when customizing weapons and pills, the ratio is 3 sets of materials for one finished product. However, alchemists and blacksmiths have the possibility of failure. If they fail twice, their efforts will be in vain. If they fail 3 times, they will have to compensate the other party with materials. Although you're only accepting 2 sets of materials, is still a steady profit, Bei Xing said with a smile. It's all right. Since there's nothing else to do, let's just store up more resources. Night Sorrow nodded. Night Sorrow's life was relatively quiet. He earned a large amount of resources from alchemy and refining tools. In addition, Night Sorrow also cultivated his combat skills every day. The power of his absolute kill of Heavenly Wasteland had greatly increased. With the support of the Will of Time, the power of the technique's time acceleration was on a completely different level from before. Night Sorrow's greatest achievement during this period of time was his movement technique. The Will of Space could cut through space and block space, while the Will of Time could increase the flow of time. This greatly increased his speed. At this time, Big Dipper City was already in a state of chaos. Various forces had swarmed into the city, but there was still no news of Night Sorrow's whereabouts. Song Wuzhuwei and Yuan Xianba had searched every possible place in Big Dipper City, but there was still no trace of Night Sorrow. Afterward, they thought of a place that they had yet to investigate, Big Dipper King's Big Dipper Manor. However, they didn't dare to go to the Big Dipper Manor. Big Dipper King was a veteran king. If they angered the king, they wouldn't have a good ending. According to the revenge rules, no one was allowed to participate. Even Big Dipper King couldn't participate. If they did, it would be a battle between forces. The Celestial Realm had no intention of starting a battle between forces. However, if someone went to Big Dipper King's manor to provoke him, they would die in vain. Regarding this point, the Tsanyan monarch couldn't say anything. The king's dignity couldn't be blasphemed. Even he couldn't change this fact. General Yuan, how should we deal with this matter? Right now, only the Big Dipper Manor hasn't been searched. In addition, according to our information, Night Sorrow was last seen in Big Dipper City. He hasn't been seen leaving since. In addition, Big Dipper King stopped me from entering Big Dipper City. This means that Night Sorrow is in Big Dipper City, Song Wuzhuwei said. But if we go to Big Dipper King's Big Dipper Manor to investigate, it will be a provocation. Not only will we cause trouble, but we will also be in the wrong. Yuan Xianba was still somewhat afraid. He was a king, but his king and Big Dipper King weren't on the same level. Whether it was in terms of status or strength, they weren't on the same level. Greetings. You go to his mansion to pay a visit and investigate while you're at it, Song Wuzhuwei stated his opinion. No, you have to have the same status to pay a visit. I will report to the Emperor and let the Emperor pay a visit to Big Dipper King. This is reasonable. Yuan Xianba said. He didn't have the qualifications to pay a visit to Big Dipper King. Big Dipper King wouldn't give him face. He didn't even have the qualifications to enter Big Dipper Manor. Song Wuzhuwei nodded. Yuan Xianba didn't say it directly because he was afraid of losing face. He was a king, so he wasn't a fool. Naturally, he knew what was going on. At this time, Big Dipper King was also somewhat prepared. His junior brother, Big Dipper King, and disciple Big Dipper King were both in Big Dipper City. It was fine if no one messed around, but if someone messed around, then the result would be a war. Yuan Xianba returned to Tian Dynasty and reported the situation to Shang Tianfeng. Shang Tianfeng didn't say anything. He kept thinking. If it was an ordinary enemy, he wouldn't pay attention to it. However, Night Sorrow was different. The Yi clan and Tian Dynasty were mortal enemies. If Night Sorrow grew up, then he would definitely fight to the death with Tian Dynasty. In the past, Shang Tianfeng didn't care much about it. However, he couldn't ignore it now. Knight Sorrow was a half-step king with high-grade willpower. Once he entered the king realm, he would be a great threat. Now was the opportunity. Killing a soul doppelganger wasn't a big deal under normal circumstances. After all, it wasn't the main body. However, it was different now. If Knight Sorrow's soul doppelganger fell at this time, then it would directly hurt the soul of the main body. Even if the main body was in the cavern, it would be difficult for it to comprehend anything. Fine, I'll go to Big Dipper City and pay a visit to Big Dipper. I want to see if Knight Sorrow is there or not. However, this can be considered as offending him too much. Shang Tianfeng said. When Shang Tianfeng stepped out of the teleportation array, he was stopped. It was the second king of Big Dipper City, the North Pole King. What business does Overlord Shang have in my Big Dipper City? The North Star Lord looked at Shang Tianfeng coldly. It's like this. I have some matters to discuss with Big Dipper King. Please lead the way, North Pole King, Shang Tianfeng said. It's not that you can't see my senior brother. However, remember this. You people from Tianan Dynasty have to behave yourselves in my Big Dipper City. Once you cross the line, you can't go back, the North Star Lord said. I won't do that. Please rest assured, Brother North Pole. I'll have to trouble Brother North Pole to notify me, Shang Tianfeng said. The North Pole King sized Shang Tianfeng up, but he didn't say anything. Chapter 1045. After thinking for a while, the North Pole King brought Shang Tianfeng to the Big Dipper Manor. He didn't know that Knight Sorrow was in the Big Dipper Manor. The king only asked him to guard the teleportation formation and pay attention to the new king. Shang Tianfeng came to see the Big Dipper King. The North Pole King felt that it was reasonable. After all, Shang Tianfeng was the emperor of the South Sky Dynasty. When Shang Tianfeng arrived at the Big Dipper Manor, he naturally spread out his soul power to investigate. As soon as he did, the sound of wind chimes rang out. The moment the wind chimes rang out, Knight Sorrow threw spirit stones into the ground and activated the 1,000 derivation illusionary formation. Shang Tianfeng, what are you doing? The North Pole King was a little angry because Shang Tianfeng had gone too far. The wind chimes in the Big Dipper Manor were special treasures. As long as one's soul power touched them, they would ring. Under normal circumstances, unless one's perception was exceptionally strong and could sense that others were probing, it would be very difficult for the formless soul force to detect them. This was also the reason why Baidu's sovereign king had set up a defensive probing treasure. I'm just checking to see if the Big Dipper King is here. Shang Tianfeng was a little embarrassed, as if he had been caught red-handed stealing something. Can't country Lord Shang sense whether I'm here or not? It's fine as long as you know what's going on. North Pole, it's not convenient for me to see guests while I'm cultivating. Arrange for country Lord Shang to rest at your place. The Big Dipper King's words came out from the manor. He didn't plan on seeing Shang Tianfeng. Country Lord Shang, please. The North Pole King knew that he had made a mistake in handling the situation. He shouldn't have brought Shang Tianfeng over. At this time, Shang Tianfeng couldn't persist. If he insisted on seeing the Big Dipper King, it would be tantamount to declaring war. If it wasn't a declaration of war, then what was? After Shang Tianfeng left, the Big Dipper King, who was playing chess with Bei Xing in the manor's main hall, put down the chess piece in his hand. The Xian celestial realm needs to be cleaned up. Even the leader of a faction, king, is so despicable. This faction is a malignant tumor. Father, he probably didn't find anything. If he did, he wouldn't have left just like that, Bei Xing said. Big Dipper King turned his head to look in the direction of Knight Sorrow's courtyard and nodded. He was worried about Father's attitude. Coupled with the influence of the Soul Bell, he didn't have the time to carefully investigate. Furthermore, Knight Sorrow activated the array formation, so he shouldn't have noticed. Father, we still have to think of a foolproof plan. If he finds out and doesn't show it, we can report it to the Tsanya monarch. If he comes to the manor to investigate, he will be caught red-handed. It will be disadvantageous to Lord Father, Bei Xing said. Without any substantial evidence, no one can mess around with me. However, we must have a foolproof plan. Let me lend my Big Dipper realm to Knight Sorrow. That way, there won't be any problems, Big Dipper King said. Lend him the Big Dipper realm? Is this appropriate? Beishing looked at his father in surprise. The Big Dipper realm was a Saint King grade space treasure. It was the protective treasure of Big Dipper's Star-Lord. If he wanted to lend it to Night Sorrow, he would have to remove the ownership. Is it appropriate to let them enter Father's space treasure? That's even more inappropriate, Big Dipper's Star-Lord said. Beishing thought about it and nodded. That was indeed the case. No one was willing to enter someone else's space treasure. It was tantamount to handing their life over. Big Dipper King and Beishing arrived at Night Sorrow's courtyard. After Night Sorrow led them into the courtyard, Big Dipper King explained the situation. At the same time, he took off a silver ring on his finger and removed the ownership. Sir King, please wait. I have a space treasure. Night Sorrow stretched out his arm, and the dragon cauldron hovered in his hand. Very well. Beishing, stay with Night Sorrow and the others for now. If anything happens and they enter the space treasure, take it with you, Big Dipper King instructed Beishing. Beishing nodded. She knew that Big Dipper City had also entered the maelstrom. After Shang Tianfeng left, he met up with Yuan Qianba and Song Wuzui. Country Lord Shang, what's the situation now? Song Wuzui asked. Big Dipper King refused to meet me. He said that it was inconvenient for him to meet guests during his cultivation. This is an excuse. If he is not guilty, he would not act like this. His manor has a soul bell that will ring as long as one uses their soul power to investigate. That is why I did not discover anything. Shang Tianfeng felt that something was amiss. He felt that there was something wrong with Big Dipper King, but he could not find any flaws. Then I will return and report this to Big Dipper King. I don't believe that Big Dipper King can take it, Song Wuzui said, somewhat annoyed. If this matter was not resolved, it would be his fault. It's useless. Without substantial evidence, Big Dipper King cannot force things. Big Dipper King will interfere unless there's a true war. Shang Tianfeng was also depressed. Big Dipper King knew that Night Sorrow was with him, but no one could do anything about it. And Shang Tianfeng had offended Big Dipper King. He did not manage to hit the fox and got himself into trouble. Then this matter will end like this? Song Wuzui was not resigned. Big Dipper King cannot hide him forever, right? He will come out eventually. Also, you guys keep an eye on the Nine Heavens realm. He might not stay there for more than 100 years. He might come out at any time, Shang Tianfeng said. That is the only thing we can do now. Big Dipper King, our Gray Cloud sect will remember him. Song Wuzui hated Big Dipper King, but there was nothing he could do. If there was evidence to prove that Yishang was at the Big Dipper Villa, then he could ask the Tsunyan Monarch to step in. However, there was no evidence now. If the Tsunyan Monarch wanted to force things without evidence, then it would be a battle of forces, a battle of monarchs. The Black Heaven Monarch would not allow the Tsunyan Monarch to act as he pleased in the profound heaven world. Also, report to Big Dipper King that the people guarding the Nine Heavens realm must be strong. When that guy comes out, he might be king. Shang Tianfeng looked at Song Wuzui and said. Song Wuzui nodded. He knew that Night Sorrow's combat ability was strong. It was useless to send people at the same level to guard him. Night Sorrow, Zhu Jiuyun, Xue Shi, and Wu Lingfei drank tea and chatted every day. Night Sorrow would cultivate his battle skills when he had time. After half a month, there was still no movement. Night Sorrow removed the formation. After all, it was inconvenient to have formation. This was not his territory. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Soon after, Big Dipper King came and told Night Sorrow about the situation and the results of his analysis. In other words, there is no evidence that Lord King took me in. They can't do anything. Night Sorrow said after thinking for a while. Yes. Usually, King has to be obedient in my place. Big Dipper King can't do anything he wants. This is Big Dipper City, not his Gray Cloud sect. He can do whatever he wants. If he is arrogant in Big Dipper City, it is not only a slap to my face but also to Big Dipper King. He can't bear the consequences. Big Dipper King nodded. Chapter 1046. After hearing the Beta Sovereign's words, Yi Shang understood that the Gray Cloud sect couldn't do whatever they wanted under the suppression of other powers. That's safe. You guys stay here. I'll investigate the situation outside. I'll keep an eye on the Celestial Master Pavilion. I'll bring back any orders, said Bei Xing. Every time you go out, call your third senior brother. That way, no one will dare to spy on you, said Big Dipper King. Okay, then I'll call third senior brother to live in the Big Dipper Villa. Bei Xing nodded. She wasn't a willful person. She knew that the current situation was very tense. They couldn't be targeted. Night Sorrow, you have to remember that the safety of your real body is the most important thing. They must have an ambush in the Nine Heavens realm. Big Dipper King reminded Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow exhaled. He knew that danger was coming. The people he had offended were too strong. Monarchs stood at the peak of cultivators. If it weren't for the other monarchs, killing him would be as easy as killing an ant. After Big Dipper King left, she brewed a pot of tea. Night Sorrow, Big Dipper King is right. The safety of your real body is the most important thing. I know. I'll be careful. Night Sorrow nodded. Pressure. Night Sorrow felt the pressure. You should cultivate steadily. Everything will be fine when you get there, said Wu Lingfei. She didn't want Night Sorrow to feel pressured. Night Sorrow took out a jar of wine. Don't worry about it. Let's live like this for now. The real body will cultivate. The clone will earn resources. If it doesn't work, I'll have to trouble Bei Xing to send you back to the Nine Regions world. I don't believe they can bite me. In the following days, Night Sorrow cultivated quietly. Now that the other party couldn't invade Big Dipper King's residence, he was safe. Other than going to the Celestial Master Pavilion once a day, Bei Xing would stay in the courtyard and cultivate. Sometimes, he would communicate with Night Sorrow. In fact, after Tsang Wuzue reported back that Sangyan Monarch did not say anything for a long time. In the end, he came to the same decision as Shang Tianfeng. There was no evidence to target the commander of a force. King Xiantian would definitely appear. No one was willing to start a war, and the Sangyan Monarch was the same. He could only put this matter aside for the time being. After that, he ordered Tsang Wuzue to bring people to the Nine Heavens realm to wait for Night Sorrow's true body. The Ashen Cloud sect left the profound celestial realm with a strong start but a weak finish. The people of the Demon Moon realm also stopped, leaving only King in Big Dipper City. The troops of the South Sky Dynasty also retreated out of Big Dipper City. Everyone was well aware of what was going on. They had gone to fight with Big Dipper King, but the Gray Cloud sect could not act rashly because of the mysterious Heaven Sovereign. The Black Heaven Monarch might not care about the conflict between Tianan Empire and Big Dipper City, but Shang Tianfeng did not have the courage to do so. Those who should have left have already left. Only a piece of trash from the Demon Moon realm is still here. It's not a big problem, Bei Xing said. This time, I've troubled Big Dipper King and Miss Bei Xing. Night Sorrow cupped his hands at Bei Xing, troubled. I don't think so. When you reach the Heavenly Master realm, you'll have to upgrade my weapons and armor first, Bei Xing said with a smile. No problem. I'll guarantee that you'll be able to use weapons and armor of the same grade, Night Sorrow said seriously, nodding. Beautiful, Bei Xing said with a wave of her hand. Knowing that the situation had changed, Night Sorrow's mind became a little more active. I plan to do something. What are you going to do? Zhu Yun asked. Kill. Let's go destroy a few more cities in the Tianan dynasty and teach them a lesson, Yi Shang said. I support you. Tell me what to do, and I'll cooperate with you, Bei Xing said. She was a naturally warlike person. Take me away from Big Dipper City and wait for me in a small city. I'll find you there when I'm done, Night Sorrow said. You don't need my help? Bei Xing said, a little disappointed. I really can't. I can't bring trouble to your father. If there's a chance in the future, we'll fight together. Night Sorrow nodded at Bei Xing. I didn't think it through. I'm sorry that I couldn't help you, Bei Xing said apologetically. Don't say that. Edition, don't say that. I'm truly grateful this time. Thank you, Lord Sovereign King. Thank you, Miss Bei Xing, said Yishan. After making the decision, Night Sorrow and the others entered the Dragon's Cauldron. Bei Xing then took the dragon's cauldron and left the Big Dipper Manor. They teleported to a small city and arrived at an inn. Bei Xing shook the dragon's cauldron and Night Sorrow came out. Miss Bei Xing, wait for me here. I'll be back in 3 days. After Night Sorrow appeared, he put on the God-slaying squad's mask and left the inn. Using the teleportation array, Night Sorrow teleported to the Sky South Dynasty's territory. He then circled the city he wanted to attack on a map and activated the teleportation array. After teleporting to the target city, Night Sorrow did a quick scan and did not find King. He then occupied the teleportation array and began the battle. During the battle, Night Sorrow also released Zhu Yun and the others. This way, the battle would be faster. After taking down a city, Night Sorrow led the girls to the next city and continued the battle. At this time, Night Sorrow was invincible among the king. Even if he faced a 1-star or 2-star king, Night Sorrow did not fear him. Moreover, there were only a few kings in the Sky South dynasty. There was no way they would be guarding the city. In half a day's time, Yishan and the girls had taken down 5 cities in a row. Without a teleportation array, it was impossible for the cities under attack to send messages. Every time they took down a city, Night Sorrow would leave a message saying that he would deal with the Sky South dynasty every time they did something stupid. After taking down 5 cities and collecting the resources of the 5 city lore mansions, Night Sorrow took the teleportation array and arrived at the small city where he met up with Bei Xing. The situation is too complicated to take action? Don't worry, we'll find another opportunity next time, Bei Xing said. Hee. Taking down 5 cities went very smoothly, Shui, she said with a smile. You took down 5 cities in half a day? Bei Xing was shocked. This kind of sneak attack requires a quick battle and a quick retreat. In fact, this kind of battle only lasts for 1 day, Night Sorrow said. Beautiful. Then let's go back and wait for news. Let's see what kind of chaos the Sky South dynasty is in, Bei Xing said with a wave of his arm. I thought about it just now. We won't return to Big Dipper City. This will cause trouble for Lord King. We'll find a place to live in seclusion. Bei Xing, thank you for taking care of me during this time. Night Sorrow cupped his hands at Bei Xing. What are you talking about? My father was afraid of trouble, so he wouldn't take on this matter. I treat you as a friend, so I'm not afraid of trouble. Now, let's not talk about anything else. Let's go back. If you don't, then we won't be friends anymore, Bei Xing said to Night Sorrow. Bei Xing, we are friends, but it really isn't appropriate for us to return to Big Dipper City, Night Sorrow said with a bitter smile. Let's not talk about these useless things. I'm asking you now, are you coming back with me? Bei Xing's usual smile was gone, replaced by a solemn expression. Chapter 10:47. Looking at Bei Xing's serious face, Night Sorrow thought for a moment and nodded. That's right. You guys enter the space treasure. We'll talk about it when we get back. Bei Xing smiled. Night Sorrow and the others entered the Dragon Cauldron. Bei Xing brought the Dragon Cauldron back to Beidou City and the Beidou Villa. When they arrived at the courtyard, Bei Xing shook the Dragon Cauldron, and Yishang and the others came out. Night Sorrow, I'm very angry today. Think about it. Bei Xing glanced at Night Sorrow and left. Haha, I really made her angry. Night Sorrow rubbed his nose. Yes, she's really angry. Explain it later. Wu Lingfei said. Bei Xing didn't go to the villa for a day and only arrived at noon the next day. She brought some food and wine. Bei Xing, don't be angry. I didn't mean it. Night Sorrow poured a cup of tea for Bei Xing and smiled. I can't afford to be angry with you. I want to gather information. The news has already spread. Now the Tianan dynasty is in chaos. Shan Tianfeng has gone mad with anger. He gave the order to capture you. If they capture you, they'll tear you to pieces, said Bei Xing. She had been waiting outside all day for news, not to be angry with Yishang. He wants to. We'll see if he can do it. Night Sorrow sneered. Of course. It's because he can't catch you that he said those words. Bei Xing said. Bei Xing opened the food box and took out the wine. They drank and chatted. Looking at Q, Yishang, you let me down a little yesterday. Friends should go through thick and thin together. You shouldn't have any messy thoughts, said Bei Xing. Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that yesterday was inappropriate. While Night Sorrow and the others were drinking, the outside world was in chaos. The Sky South Empire had completely sealed off all regions, and Shang Tianfeng had also notified the Ashen Cloud sect. Because Night Sorrow had appeared in the Sky South Empire, it was a good opportunity to capture Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow did not know about these things, and even if he knew, he would not care. After Bei Xing left, he would cultivate battle techniques and fuse battle techniques. This time, when he was massacring the city, he realized that the movement techniques and techniques fused with the time and space elements were really useful. Peak stage Saint Kings could only be killed and would not be able to stop his attacks. After cultivating his battle skills for a while, Night Sorrow began to refine pills. This time, he had robbed a lot of materials, and now he could turn them into pills. When Bei Xing returned to the courtyard, his face was full of smiles. Night Sorrow, you've had a lot of fun. The people of the Tianan dynasty and the Gray Cloud sect have been searching for you all over the Tianan dynasty. They're just a bunch of idiots. How could they be so stupid? Why didn't they leave after killing him? Why would Night Sorrow wait for them to capture him? She could not understand. They're not stupid. It's just that they had people watching the teleportation array of Big Dipper City and did not see Night Sorrow enter or leave, so they determined that he was hiding in the Tianan dynasty. AI, they're not stupid. They're just a little stupid. Bei Xing shook his head and said, the people of the Gray Cloud sect, Tianan dynasty, and Demon Moon Realm who had originally stayed in Big Dipper City to monitor the situation had also retreated. Their main focus had shifted to the Tianan dynasty, the Tianding Gate region, and to Extreme City, because these are the regions where Night Sorrow was most likely to appear. The situation was very stable. Bei Xing asked the greedy king to continue monitoring the Heavenly Star Tower near the teleportation array. Then, Night Sorrow brought the girls back to the Sage Pavilion. Night Sorrow's life was quiet once again. No one came to Big Dipper City to search, because some factors had eliminated the possibility that Night Sorrow was in Big Dipper City. However, the Big Dipper King still had some arrangements. If someone came, he would be the first to know. Bei Xing asked Night Sorrow to set up an array around the mansion behind the Sage Pavilion. The array was activated, and Night Sorrow left a door for her to enter and exit. This way, she could enter and exit without others being able to find out. The Tianan dynasty became the laughingstock of the Xian celestial realm. They were attacked by Night Sorrow again and again, but they had no way to fight back. Inside the Tianding Gate, Elder Xiang and Yin Huifeng were discussing the current situation with Yu Yangyu and the others at Danding Peak. I have to say that Sage Knight did well. Now, the Tianan dynasty attacked you first, and then you retaliated. If the Tianan dynasty starts a conflict with us again, what should we do? Should I go find an ally and declare war? Yin Huifeng asked Elder Xiang. There's no need to find an ally. If they start a conflict, we'll declare war. I'll go and see how strong the Tianan dynasty is. If King dares to come, kill them all. It's not that I'm not giving face to the Tianxi king. It's that his descendants are too arrogant, Elder Xiang said. Disciple understands. Yin Huifeng nodded. He knew that Elder Xiang was really angry now. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made such a decision. On this day, Night Sorrow had just finished concocting pills. Wu Lingfei told Night Sorrow that his family had all come out of seclusion. With the acceleration of the space-time pagoda, everyone's cultivation had increased rapidly. Yishang's parents were already high-rank saints, and his 3 wives were not far from becoming high-rank saints. The members of the God-slaying team went to the Holy Hall to teach the students to calm down. Ask Little Kong about the Spirit Stones. Also, talk to Little Kong. Night Moon's people and my senior brothers in the Medicine Valley want to go in to cultivate. Open them up to them, Night Sorrow said to Wu Lingfei. Wu Lingfei then told Night Sorrow that there were enough Spirit Stones in Little Kong and that he didn't need to worry. She also told Night Sorrow and his senior brothers in the Medicine Valley that she would inform later. Knowing that everything was fine in the 9 regions world, Night Sorrow felt at ease. He told Wu Lingfei Zhu Jiyun, and Shui Shi not to tell his family about this, mainly because he didn't want them to worry. Understanding Knight Sorrow's thoughts, Wu Lingfei and the others nodded. Time. I don't know when my original body will wake up from its enlightenment. When it wakes up again, even if I don't enter the king's realm, it will be about time. Knight Sorrow was confident in himself. What he needed was time. Knight Sorrow, even if you enter the king's realm, don't come out of the will of heaven and earth's cave. This is a rare opportunity. You can continue to cultivate inside. It will definitely be much faster than outside. Wu Lingfei looked at Knight Sorrow and said, she felt that no matter what happened, no grudge, nothing was more important than Knight Sorrow's future. Things could be resolved slowly, but there weren't many opportunities to increase his strength. It wasn't worth it to give up the opportunity to quickly improve his cultivation for the sake of the matter at hand. I understand. I've just entered the king's realm, so I'm not his opponent. However, it won't be easy for anyone to kill me. After all, the wills that I've comprehended specialize in speed. Ordinary kings aren't as fast as mine, Knight Sorrow said. Wu Lingfei nodded. Everyone was looking forward to it, because Knight Sorrow was the pillar of the Nine Regions world. If Knight Sorrow entered the king's realm, it would open the path of the Nine Regions world's true rise. He wouldn't be at the mercy of others. Just like in the Wuji world, Shang Tianfeng didn't dare to challenge Yin Tianpa. What are you guys talking about? Why are you so serious? I have good news. The Demon Moon world is going to be in trouble. North Star entered the courtyard and said, Chapter 1048. The Moon Demon World is unlucky? What's going on? Knight Sorrow asked curiously. It's the monarch Zi Xiao of the Nine Heavens world who gave the order to expel the Moon Demon World from the Nine Heavens world. In other words, the Moon Demon World is not allowed to develop in the Nine Heavens world, Bei Xing said. So strong. Conflicts between the monarchs, just like that? Knight Sorrow was a little surprised. He thought that the monarch Zi Xiao would not do anything to the Moon Demon King after what happened last time, but the truth was out of his expectations. The reason is simple. The people of the Moon Demon world are wandering around the Nine Heavens Tower. It's obvious that they're waiting for you. The monarch Zi Xiao is furious. You know the result. They're all expelled, Bei Xing said with a smile. Bastards have to be dealt with. Let's see how they're going to survive now that they've offended someone ruthless, Zhu Jiuyun scolded. Zhu Jiuyun was not an emotional person. She was the ruler of the underworld. She had a strong aura and quality. She scolded because the Moon Demon world was too despicable. The Moon Demon King may not be afraid of the monarch Zi Xiao, but if the monarch Xin Xiao shows up, he can only run away if he doesn't want to be killed. There will be no place for him in the Nine Heavens world, Bei Xing said with a smile. Good news, this is really good news. The Demon Moon world can't wait near the Nine Heavens Pagoda, so only the Grey Cloud sect and the South Sky dynasty are left. The danger is much smaller. Wu Lingfei said happily. It's not like that. The Tiannan dynasty is part of the Tianxian world. They don't dare to wait for you in the Nine Heavens world. If they do, the monarch Xian Tian will bring his people and destroy the Tiannan dynasty, Bei Xing sneered. The Tiannan dynasty was jumping around in the Tianxian world. Even if the monarch Xian Tian was dissatisfied, he would tolerate it. If the Tiannan Empire were to deal with the people of the Grand Celestial Wonders world, then things would be different. It would reach a point where he could not tolerate it, and the people of the Celestial Wonders world could not accept it. If he did not deal with it, there would be no rules and order in the Grand Celestial Wonders world. In other words, when Knight Sorrow's true body comes out of Nine Heavens Pagoda, the danger he will face will be much smaller. Wu Lingfei was very happy with this result. In fact, the Sky South Dynasty's spies inside the Nine Heavens Pagoda had retreated under Shang Tianfeng's orders. He originally thought that he could fish in troubled waters and wait for Knight Sorrow. But now that the Demon Moon world had retreated, he couldn't continue to do so because the situation would become very serious. Knight Sorrow's life was very stable. Every day, he would refine pills, refine tools, and cultivate combat skills. Ning Yun and Chiyu's life was also very regular. In addition to cultivating in the Celestial Master Pavilion, they would go out to explore. No one knew the relationship between the two of them and Night Sorrow, so their safety was not a big problem. Once again, coming out of the Celestial Master Pavilion, Chiyu waved her arm. Actually, I really want to tell others that I am Master's disciple. Master's domineering aura requires others to respect him. Now is not the time. Master is a hidden dragon in the abyss. When the dragon roars to the 9 heavens, they will know how powerful he is. They are all blind. We also have to work hard. When Master needs to fight, we can't stand in the front, we have to follow behind. Whoever is unfavorable to Master, we will kill them. Ningyan said, it is very difficult for us to help Master. Our level is too low, Chiyu said with some emotion. Her cultivation had risen very quickly, and so had Ningyan. They both worked very hard, but their foundation was too low. In other words, their cultivation time was too short. So what if our level is too low? When needed, even if I am cut to death, I will do it. Ningyan said. In Ningyan's heart, Night Sorrow was not only a teacher who imparted his skills, but also an uncle who needed to be respected. He also had another identity, and that was the benefactor who saved his family. If Night Sorrow needed it, he would not hesitate to sacrifice himself. Chiyu nodded. She knew some things about Night Sorrow and the Ning family. After all, she cultivated with Ning Yun in the St. Hall. Now that they were brother and sister, they often chatted together. There was nothing they didn't talk about. In the courtyard, Night Sorrow had finished refining the custom-made weapon for the Celestial Master Pavilion. He washed his face and sat down to drink tea. Night Sorrow, aren't you worried about the safety of Ning Yun and Chiyu? Wu Lingfei looked at Night Sorrow and asked, I am worried, but they have their own paths. I've always kept them by my side. They're like flowers that have never experienced wind and rain. They will never have great achievements. So even if I am worried, I can't say it. Night Sorrow exhaled and said, This is the responsibility of a teacher. Although the two of them have only cultivated for a short time, their experience should not be a problem, Jian said. She knew that the disciples of the St. Hall paid a lot of attention to actual combat and experience during cultivation. Their survival ability was extremely strong. A stable life was what Night Sorrow needed the most now. Every day, he could refine pills and refine artifacts. In the process of accumulating resources, he could also improve his alchemy and artifact refining skills. Night Sorrow was indeed a Saint King great alchemist and artifact refining master, but there was still room for improvement in his refining skills. As his proficiency increased, it would be much easier for him to refine high-grade Saint King pills and Saint King artifacts. Night Sorrow, you are now so rich that you can't even handle the custom-made orders every day. Bei Xing said with a smile after entering the courtyard with wine and food. You still dare to say that I am rich? I am as tired as a dog today. As the boss, you're the one sitting comfortably collecting resources and spirit stones. Night Sorrow said with a smile. You guys be the judge. When I said that I would give this shop to him, he didn't want it. When I said that I wanted 30% of the shares, he also didn't want it. He insisted that I take 40%. Now, he is complaining that I am earning too much. Bei Xing put down the wine and food and pointed at Night Sorrow and the others. Okay, I said something wrong. Night Sorrow said with a smile. You are a good person. You admit your mistakes quickly, unlike some people who refuse to admit their mistakes. Bei Xing said with a smile. Sit down, let's eat something. Night Sorrow helped Bei Xing pull out a chair. Towards Bei Xing, Night Sorrow was very grateful. It could be said that Bei Xing had taken care of him during this time, helping him shoulder a lot of things. Night Sorrow remembered all of this in his heart. After eating, Northstar said that he had asked someone to go to 9 Heavens City to help Night Sorrow investigate the situation. He didn't want Night Sorrow to be in danger when he left 9 Heavens Tower. Thank you. Night Sorrow stood up and cupped his fists. Remember, I need a king's weapon, Northstar said with a smile. I remember. I definitely remember. Night Sorrow nodded. After Northstar left, Night Sorrow sighed. Life is so hard these days. I need someone to take care of me everywhere. Update the most fast P. This is a stage that all cultivators must go through. Everyone has their weak moments, and everyone needs help. Zhu Jiuyun said. She knew that Night Sorrow had a strong personality. Now that he needed someone to help him everywhere, he felt uncomfortable. Yes, now we just need to wait for your real body to come out. Then we can vent our anger. Wu Lingfei nodded. Chapter 1049. This will take a long time. However, the next time the original body wakes up from his meditation, he should be in the king realm. By then, this clone of mine should be able to solve some problems. Night Sorrow said, after thinking for a while. Night Sorrow did not have the intention of using his original body to fight. His original body was the foundation. His original body could comprehend the will and raise his cultivation state. His clone was enough. Yes, your clone has 90% of the original body's strength. It's more than enough to fight and kill. Wu Lingfei agreed with Night Sorrow's opinion. After all, the original body was the most important. Everyone knew about Yi Shan's situation. There was a doppelganger in the heaven-sealing Great Hall that was equivalent to the main body. However, that doppelganger was already with the heaven-sealing Great Hall and could not leave. It was extremely inconvenient for him to live and travel the world. In the end, it was still quite different from the main body. Hence, the importance of the main body was self-evident. After drinking some wine, Yishan went to rest. He had been refining pills and refining tools all this time, so he was mentally exhausted. When Night Sorrow woke up, Zhu Jian had an idea. She wanted to use her original body to enter the heaven mystic world and find a place to comprehend the will of the heaven and earth. The danger is greater now. Do you really want to do this? Night Sorrow asked. Yes. If I don't take this step, I will never improve. I can't accept this. We have to fight side by side. Zhu Jian looked at Night Sorrow with a resolute gaze. She was once the king of a world. Now, she had to rely on Night Sorrow to shoulder everything. To her, this was a torture. All right then. However, when we leave the Two Extreme City, we have to be careful. Safety comes first. Night Sorrow reminded Zhu Jiuyun. Shueshi thought for a while. Night Sorrow, do you need me to make a trip back to Danding Peak to see if there's anything going on there? There's no need. With Elder Xiang here, there won't be any problems. If there's a battle, we'll get the news. Night Sorrow shook his head. He really didn't want anyone around him to be in danger. Looking at Night Sorrow, Shueshi nodded. She knew that Night Sorrow was worried about her safety. She suggested going to Danding Peak because she didn't want Night Sorrow to worry about the situation there. The Tianding Gate is a sect that has king. If we start a war with the Tianding Gate, it will be a war between two forces. The Grey Cloud sect and the Demon Moon realm will not easily start such a war. The consequences will be very serious. Wu Lingfei said. The Grey Cloud sect and the Demon Moon realm won't. I wonder if that mad dog from the Sky South dynasty will. Night Sorrow was still worried. He was worried that the Sky South dynasty would go crazy. We don't know Elder Xiang's level. If Elder Xiang was stronger than the emperor of the Tianan dynasty, the battle wouldn't have happened. If he was weaker, those bastards from the Tianan dynasty might start a war, said Wu Lingfei. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, we can't ask about this. If we don't enter the king's realm, we won't be able to find out. So we can only let nature take its course. Night Sorrow shook his head. Everything was out of his control now. All he could do was work hard to improve his strength. 5 days later, Zhu Jian told Night Sorrow that her original body had already left the Two Extreme City and went to the Sky Fire Canyon. Zhu Jian cultivated the death and fire attribute laws. Comprehending the death intent was the most promising. However, she knew that it wouldn't be easy. In the mysterious heaven world, the death intent appeared in the black pool of death. However, that was the territory of the Yinmen sect. The style of the Yinmen sect was similar to the Tianan dynasty. It would be dangerous for her to go there. In addition, Zhu Jiun first comprehended the fire attribute law in the Saint realm. This meant that the fire attribute was more suitable for her than the death attribute. It would be easier for her to comprehend the fire attribute heaven and earth. Night Sorrow supported Jiuyun's choice. However, Night Sorrow couldn't help her with this. Elder Wu, we also need to find a suitable place for us to comprehend the heaven and earth's will. Don't be blind when the time comes. Xueshi said. Wu Lingfei had already entered the high-level Saint King realm. Xueshi was slightly slower. However, she was still a 6-star Saint King. With the acceleration of the space-time treasure pagoda, it was only a matter of time before she entered the peak Saint King realm. When the time comes, I'll think of a way to ask Bei Xing and the others. Bei Xing and Qian, you're more familiar with the mysterious heaven world than us. If the mysterious heaven world isn't enough, I'll go to the Sky Dome world and ask Chunbai and Heifeng. They shouldn't be stingy with their help. Night Sorrow said. That shouldn't be a problem. All right, Night Sorrow, have you thought of setting up a teleportation array between the 9 regions world and the mysterious heaven world? Xueshi changed the topic. I'd like to, but it's too difficult. The teleportation array between the 9 regions world and the Wuji world uses a Saint-grade teleportation crystal. The distance between the 9 regions world and the mysterious heaven world is huge. I think we'll have to use a Saint-grade teleportation crystal. In other words, only a King-grade teleportation crystal can do it. A King-grade alchemy and refining materials, as well as resources, can be found but not sought. Night Sorrow shook his head. He had thought of this problem a long time ago, but he couldn't do it. If the people of the 9 regions world want to develop, then we must have a foundation in the mysterious heaven world, just like the two-pole city in the Wuji world. However, this step still requires time. First, we must have the deterrence of the king. Otherwise, we'll be easily trampled by others. Wu Lingfei spoke her thoughts. If we knew this earlier, we wouldn't have joined the Tianding Gate. Wouldn't we be looking for trouble? Jiuyun muttered. There's no conflict. The 2 main rules of the Tianding Gate are that we can't betray the Tianding Gate. When the Tianding Gate needs help, we have to help. We're people of the 9 regions world. It's natural for us to build our own city and establish our own power. Night Sorrow spoke his thoughts. That's right. These should be 2 different things. However, to reach this step, Night Sorrow has to enter the king's realm and obtain a Saint-grade teleportation array crystal. Jiuyun said. Right now, we need to stockpile resources. When it's about time, we'll go and purchase them. Even if we have to pay a high price, we still have to obtain 2 King-grade teleportation crystals. Night Sorrow clenched his fist. The grudges between the 9 regions world and the Sky South Empire have to be resolved. Therefore, the 9 regions world's development in the profound heaven world is a necessary step, Wu Lingfei said. In fact, this wasn't just Night Sorrow's thoughts. It was also the thoughts of many people of the 9 regions world. In the past years, the Sky South Empire had brought too much harm to the 9 regions world. The great massacre that occurred once every 10,000 years and the collection of Saint-grade Saint crystals as materials was a bloody grudge. The last time, they even wanted to destroy the 9 regions world. As long as one had the slightest bit of courage in them, they couldn't accept it. I understand. Now that the Sky South Empire is strong, we can only endure. However, as long as we work hard, there will be a chance. They owe the 9 regions world and the people of the Night Moon too much. Back then, Shang Tianfeng forced the Night Moon's ancestor to death and almost destroyed the Night Moon. As a person of the Night Moon, I can't tolerate it. Night Sorrow said. Night Sorrow could imagine the cruel scene back then. Chapter 1050. If he died in battle, that was because his skills were inferior, but Shang Tianfeng's methods were too despicable. Using a child to threaten others to not fight back was shameless to the extreme. It was a perversion of human nature, a loss of morals. That Shang Tianfeng is a pervert. This person must be killed. Wu Lingfei's face was full of coldness. Children were the future, the flesh and blood of parents. Using children to threaten others was unacceptable to all practitioners. There will be a day when this matter will be resolved. Night Sorrow nodded. He had not been by his parents' side since he was young. Night Sorrow longed for the warmth of a family. After seeing his parents and feeling their love, he could understand what children meant to their parents. 2 months passed peacefully. Bei Xing brought the sloppy, greedy Wolf King to Night Sorrow's courtyard. Bei Xing was still holding a food box and a jar of wine. "Greetings, Lord King." Night Sorrow and the others cupped their hands towards greedy Wolf King. "No need to be so polite. You're my junior sister's friends. Just call me Brother Greedy Wolf." Greedy Wolf said with a smile. "My third senior brother stopped that idiot Song Wuze. After he calmed down, he went back to look for the Tsunyan monarch." Bei Xing recounted what had happened. "Let's not be polite. I heard from my junior sister that you like to drink. I like to drink too. I don't have any other hobbies in my life except drinking. During this time, for my junior sister's good wine, my legs almost broke from running. The outside of Nine Heavens Pagoda is not safe. There are 2 kings in the Tsangyun sect waiting there." Greedy Wolf King recounted the situation he had investigated this time. "Then I won't be polite. This is the wine brewed by my 6th senior sister. It is still different from the wine of Tian Xing Lu. Try it." Night Sorrow took out 2 jars of wine and placed them on the table. Greedy Wolf King rubbed his hands, opened one jar, and poured out a bowl. After sniffing it, he raised his head and drank it. "Good wine, strong enough. I like it." Night Sorrow smiled and opened the other jar, drinking a bowl with Greedy Wolf King. Bei Xing and the other girls also served the dishes. Soon, more than a dozen jars were consumed by Night Sorrow and Greedy Wolf King. "I can't. If I drink any more, I'll faint. You and I have the same temperament. I'll come find you another day." Greedy Wolf King stood up and rubbed his blurry eyes. After sending off Greedy Wolf King and North Star, Night Sorrow came back and let out a sigh of relief. Greedy Wolf King's alcohol tolerance is really not bad. If I hadn't practiced it when I was young, I would have collapsed today. Haha, today's custom-made weapon. You have finished refining it. Go and rest." Shueshi looked at Night Sorrow and said. She knew that Night Sorrow was very tired. Night Sorrow's 3 wives weren't around. Shueshi wasn't Night Sorrow's wife, but she did fulfill her duty as a wife. "You guys too. It's not easy being here with me. Let's all get some rest." Night Sorrow nodded and returned to his bedroom. "It's really too difficult. He has to shoulder everything." Wu Lingfei sighed. There was really no one who could help Night Sorrow now. Zhu Jiyun also shook her head helplessly. She wanted to help Night Sorrow and try to comprehend the will of heaven and earth. However, the chances of her doing so were very low. There were many peak saint kings in the heaven mystic world, but there were only half-step kings and kings. Why? Because even if there was a place where the will of heaven and earth manifested, it was still extremely difficult to comprehend. It required talent and comprehension. Zhu Jiyun was confident in herself, but confidence didn't mean that she would succeed. After a good night's rest, Night Sorrow got up and waved the sky splitter casually to stretch his muscles. At this moment, Bei Xing came. Her face was filled with excitement. "What's the good news?" Night Sorrow asked after keeping the sky splitter. "There's something. I think someone will come looking for you later." Bei Xing said. "How many people are looking for me now? It's only good if you can find him. You protected him so tightly, so it's not fake." Yishan shook his head. He was already used to being searched for. Update. QXN. "No, I didn't make it clear enough," Bei Xing said. "I think some sovereigns will come looking for you." "Sovereign is here." "Shueshi, you guys hurry up and pack your things. We have to hurry and leave. Don't bring trouble to Big Dipper King," Night Sorrow said to Shueshi and the other 2 girls. "Oh my god, don't worry. What did I say? I didn't make myself clear. He's not here to capture you. He's probably here to ask you for a favor." Bei Xing pulled Shueshi back and quickly explained. "Monarch is looking for me? North Star, are you sure?" Night Sorrow asked in surprise. "I'm not wrong," Bei Xing said. "According to the current situation, it's most likely that someone will ask you to step forward. Because you're the most powerful Saint King, your chances of success are the highest." "What's the situation?" Night Sorrow understood that he had been searched all the time. There were some problems with his train of thought. Finally, after listening to Bei Xing's explanation, Night Sorrow understood what was going on. It was difficult for sovereigns to improve their strength. If they wanted to improve further, they needed to control the power of heaven and earth. In other words, they had to control a part of heaven and earth. However, no one in the Nine Firmament World Group could do it. Since they couldn't break through, they had to find ways to improve their strength from other aspects. Refining the soul and body was the way to go. Currently, the most accomplished soul refiner was Sovereign Shin Shao. This was also the reason why he could shock the Nine Firmament World Group and make the other sovereigns admire him. Now, the sovereigns' opportunity had come, but they couldn't do it themselves. This opportunity was the appearance of the Soul World in the Nine Firmament World Group. This was the name of the Nine Firmament World. Normally speaking, it was called the Boundless Soul World. The Boundless Soul World had the best resources for refining the soul cultivation liquid. The soul cultivation liquid was a special existence. It was similar to the origin of space and the world, but its form was different and it didn't have intelligence. Sovereign Shin Shao had once obtained the soul cultivation liquid. When Sovereign Z Shao hadn't entered the King realm, he had helped him obtain it. Because the Boundless Soul World rejected cultivators above the King realm, only those below the King realm could enter. In fact, all the space worlds rejected cultivators above the King realm. King realm controlled the will of heaven and earth and had the ability to destroy space worlds. As long as it was a formed space world, it would reject King realm. When Gong Yang Lai had planned to enter the Nine Firmament World, it was also because he felt that the origin of the Nine Firmament World was broken and there were no more world rules. This soul cultivation liquid is very important to the sovereigns. If the sovereigns want to get it, the people they send out are not good enough. That's very important. Bei Xing explained. Who doesn't want the treasure if it's not important to them? Wu Lingfei said. Wu Lingfei was a little disgusted to let Knight Sorrow fight for other people's opportunities. No, if you're not a sovereign realm cultivator and don't control more than 90% of the will, using the soul cultivation liquid is asking for trouble. The soul cultivation liquid will directly annihilate the user's soul, Bei Xing said. Chapter 1051. Let's not talk about the king's subordinates. There must be quite a number of peak holy kings and half-step kings. If they form a team, their battle prowess won't be weak. They might not necessarily come looking for me, Knight Sorrow said. Hee, if forming a team can solve the problem, then would the use of an expert be obvious? In the Boundless Soul World, if you meet a strong half-step king or beginner king, won't you be wiped out? Of course, this depends on your choice. Regarding the Boundless Soul World, my knowledge is limited, Northstar said. Let's meet Lord Big Dipper King and see what he has to say. Knight Sorrow was not a hothead who had just entered the Jianghu. He wanted to hear Big Dipper King's opinion. He felt that with Big Dipper King's character, his opinion should be honest. Northstar nodded and brought Knight Sorrow to Big Dipper Manor to meet Big Dipper King. When Knight Sorrow arrived, Big Dipper King and Big Dipper King were drinking tea and chatting. You're here. Sit. Big Dipper King waved his hand at Knight Sorrow. After Knight Sorrow cupped his hands and sat down, he explained the purpose of his visit. I've guessed it. Northstar must have told you about this. As for your opinion, I really can't say. There are pros and cons, so let's talk about the cons first. Danger. It's very dangerous. It's just like the no territory you've been to before. It's much more dangerous than that because there are King Realm natives there. There are definitely more of them than there are in the no territory, Big Dipper King said to Knight Sorrow. I've thought about this before. Effort and reward are directly proportional. The advancement of a cultivator is a test of the heavenly Tao. It doesn't make sense to be able to obtain heaven-defying resources so easily. Knight Sorrow nodded. As for the danger, he was mentally prepared. Then let's talk about the benefits. The characteristics of the Boundless Soul World are the same as that of the Boundless Soul World. It's an aboriginal world, which means that the civilization of the cultivators there is very low. The cultivators who are successful are all talented demon beasts. In this case, there will be more resources. Also, let's talk about the key soul cultivation liquid. Every drop of soul cultivation liquid is a treasure that monarchs yearn for even in their dreams. Last time, Purple Firmament Monarch only managed to obtain 3 drops before he was chased away by King of the Boundless Soul World. Because he had a life-saving method, he was able to return alive. Northern Dipper Monarch analyzed the benefits of the soul cultivation liquid for Night Sorrow. 3 drops? Since we're here, why didn't we destroy the nest? Night Sorrow was confused. Northern Dipper King shook his head and explained the reason. The soul cultivation liquid was produced by the Boundless Cliff in the Boundless Soul World. There was a special place at the bottom of the Boundless Cliff where the soul cultivation liquid would drip down. If it was not collected at that time, it would seep into the ground and be absorbed by the Boundless Cliff. The soul cultivation liquid could not be used by those below the Monarch realm. However, the spirit chi it emitted was something that some cultivators yearned for. In addition, the Boundless Cliff absorbed spirit chi and was a cultivation paradise. There would definitely be high-level cultivators guarding it. It's really difficult. You have to think carefully. Of course, if you obtain the soul cultivation liquid, you'll be rich. Northern Dipper King said. At that time, you'll have the soul cultivation liquid in your hands. It won't be a problem to exchange it for cultivation resources. You can even say that you'll gain the monarch's favor. Northern Dipper King nodded. I do need special resources. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said, What resources do you need? Let me see if I have them. At this time, Black Heaven Monarch, who was wearing a brocade robe, appeared in the hall. Northern Dipper King and Northern Dipper King stood up and bowed. Night Sorrow and Northern Star also cupped their hands and bowed. The monarch was a big shot. He had cultivated to this level and had put in a lot of effort. He had to be respected. I need a king-grade teleportation crystal. Night Sorrow directly stated his request. King-grade? Hee. Do you know what a king-grade teleportation crystal is? It can be used to teleport across worlds. It can even be done across a few worlds. If it's not big enough, you'll need 2 pieces. Black Heaven Monarch was stunned and said, The cultivators in my hometown can't get out. Therefore, I want to set up a teleportation array in the mysterious sky world. Night Sorrow said, Your reason is very good. Originally, I plan to help you solve some problems after you get the soul cultivation liquid. However, you want a king-grade teleportation crystal. This is equal. Black Heaven Monarch said, I have to solve the problem I caused. If I'm lucky enough to get the soul cultivation liquid, Lord Monarch can give me a pair of king-grade teleportation crystals. Night Sorrow said, Some problems could be solved slowly. However, the king-grade materials were not easy to get. Therefore, Night Sorrow had his own choice. Okay, I only have one. I'll find a way to get you another one. The rest is up to you. I can guarantee that no other king-grade will attack you when you enter and leave the Boundless Soul World. Black Heaven Monarch nodded. When do we leave? I'll wait for Lord Monarch's orders. Night Sorrow said, There's still some time. I'll come and pick you up. Black Heaven Monarch nodded. Then, Night Sorrow and Bei Xing left the hall and returned to the mansion behind the Sage Pavilion. Night Sorrow, you can ask for other things, Bei Xing said. Other problems can be solved as I become stronger. However, the king-grade teleportation crystal is too hard to get. Night Sorrow did not regret his decision. Then, Wu Lingfei and the others told Bei Xing about the situation. Wu Lingfei and the others did not say anything. They understood Night Sorrow's decision. At the same time, in the hall of the Big Dipper Villa, Black Heaven Monarch and Big Dipper King were talking. This little guy is really giving me a hard time. I only have 1 king-grade teleportation crystal. Monarch No Beginning should have one too. However, if he wants to trade for it, he'll have to pay a high price. Black Heaven Monarch shook his head. In his heart, he doesn't put his own matters first. The development of his hometown is the most important. I admire him for that, Big Dipper King said. Of course. Besides, if I don't agree, someone else will come and ask him. It's not right to ask a junior for help. Black Heaven Monarch nodded. Then, Black Heaven Monarch told Big Dipper King that no matter which faction the king was from, they would be expelled from the Big Dipper City. In other words, Night Sorrow had to protect them openly. Of course, No one knew that Night Sorrow was in Big Dipper City. Only a limited number of people knew about it. Night Sorrow also began to prepare for the upcoming battle. He knew what happened the last time he went in weave. This time, it would be even worse. Wu Lingfei and the others were worried. However, they could only support Night Sorrow at this time. As for Zhu Jiyun's request, Yishang directly rejected it. He regretted bringing Zhu Jiyun in last time because the risk was too great. Chapter 1052. Half a month later, Big Dipper King arrived at the villa and brought Night Sorrow to Big Dipper Villa. "All right, we can set off now. I'll send you to the boundary barrier of Boundless Soul World," said Lord Xiantian, who was waiting at Big Dipper Villa. "Thank you, Lord Monarch." Night Sorrow nodded at Lord Xiantian. "Actually, I'm quite conflicted about asking you to sacrifice your life for me," Lord Xiantian said to Night Sorrow. "Monarch, you're thinking too much. We're just taking what we need," Night Sorrow said. Lord Xiantian nodded. "Then let's set off. We have a team in Tianxian World. Do you want to come along?" "No need, I could do it myself. Lord Sovereign King, I'll have to trouble you to take care of my companions." Yishang cupped his hands towards Beidou, Sovereign King. Without waiting for Big Dipper King to speak, Lord Xiantian promised that no one could touch Night Sorrow's friends before the matter in Boundless Soul World was settled. With Lord Xiantian's promise, Night Sorrow was relieved and left Big Dipper City with Lord Xiantian. After a few teleportations, Night Sorrow and Lord Xiantian arrived at a relatively barren small space world in the Nine Heavens world. In front of the space barrier of the small space world, Night Sorrow saw many people. The monarchs he saw last time were all there, and there were people behind each monarch. Seeing Night Sorrow, Monarch Seven Rains nodded at Night Sorrow with a kind smile. Night Sorrow saw Long Jin behind Monarch Hailan. "Yishang, we meet again." Long Jin's face was filled with a warm smile. Night Sorrow cupped his fists and returned the greeting. He knew that Long Jin was also a soul avatar. This Great One will make things clear first. Normally, when you fight with Night Sorrow, this Great One will not interfere if it is within the rules. However, this time, this Great One is the one who invited Night Sorrow out. If anyone dares to make a move on him at this time, this Great One swears that I will not rest until one of us is dead. There are no rules to speak of, the mysterious Sky Monarch said as he looked at the Tsangyun Monarch coldly. The Tsangyun Sovereign snorted coldly and turned his head away. He knew that this was not the time to go against the mysterious Heaven Sovereign. The mysterious Heaven Sovereign was definitely not joking around, because no one was willing to engage in a life and death struggle. Night Sorrow didn't say anything either. He could tell that some people were just bullying him. If they really met someone powerful, they wouldn't dare to say anything. Night Sorrow cupped his hands towards Qing Yin and Hei Feng behind No Beginning Monarch. In the profound heaven world, it was normal for cultivators with high status to have soul avatars. If Chunbai didn't come, it probably meant that he didn't have a soul avatar or that his soul avatar's level wasn't high enough. Night Sorrow then nodded towards Qian Xiangwei and Qianren behind Qian Jinyu and greeted them. Qian Ziwei's original body was cultivating in the Nine Heavens Tower. Since she didn't have a soul avatar, she naturally wouldn't come. The mysterious Sky Monarch brought Night Sorrow to the other side and said, "Wait a moment. I still need some time. Make a soul crystal from your soul avatar for this Great One." Night Sorrow nodded and made a soul crystal. After waiting quietly for 2 days, the mysterious Sky Monarch told Night Sorrow that it would be ready soon. After 2 years, he had to come out. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to come out. Take a look, version 4. Chapter J. Section 1, The Boundless Soul Plane, was even more complicated than the Boundless Territory. It took a long time for it to appear. It could even be said that it couldn't be calculated because many years had passed. There were only 2 recorded appearances, and the lowest was millions of years. Night Sorrow prepared for a big battle. After entering, it was inevitable that there would be a big battle between people from different factions. However, the mysterious Sky Monarch's next words made Night Sorrow realize that his thoughts were wrong. After entering the Boundless Soul Plane, everyone would be affected by the spatial laws. Everyone would appear in different areas, so the possibility of a battle was low. There was no way to mark the exit, so the mysterious sky monarch gave Night Sorrow a disc with a pointer on it. This great one has a magnetic stone on me. This pointer will always point to my location. When you want to come out, just follow the guidance of the magnetic stone array disc, the mysterious sky monarch said to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow put away the array disc and nodded. All the king's arrangements were the same. The other people who had all entered the spatial treasure. Now, only one person from each faction was outside. The rest had entered the spatial treasure, which meant that the team situation was still there. Little brother Night Sorrow, are you really not coming with us? Qian Xiangwei, who was the only one left behind Qian Jinyu, asked Night Sorrow again. No need. I can do it myself. This way, the chances are relatively higher. Night Sorrow looked at Qian Xiangwei apologetically. If it were any other time, Night Sorrow might have followed Qian Xiangwei. However, he couldn't do so now. He had an agreement with the mysterious sky monarch. If he followed Qian Xiangwei, it would be fine if he didn't get the soul cultivation liquid. Then you must be careful. Qian Xiangwei didn't understand why Night Sorrow didn't follow them. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow waved his hand at Qian Xiangwei. After using his energy to isolate her from probing, he took out 2 bottles of the 7 absolute poison smoke and 2 antidotes. After explaining to Qian Xiangwei how to use them, he returned to stand behind the mysterious sky monarch. Sneaky and shameful, the Tsanya monarch said as he glanced at Night Sorrow. I'm not shameful, but I want to save my face, Night Sorrow replied coldly. Brat, do you want to die? The Tsanya monarch waved his sleeves, his face filled with killing intent. You've wanted me dead for a long time, haven't you? Ha. Furthermore, did I say anything wrong? Night Sorrow wasn't afraid of the Tsanya monarch at all. Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, there was no need to save his face. As for safety, the mysterious sky monarch was there. Enough. Songyun, send someone to the mysterious sky world to kill a Saint King. I will tolerate you, but don't step on my bottom line. The mysterious sky monarch stood in front of Night Sorrow. All right, you can enter now. Let's see who's stronger and who's lucky. The purple firmament monarch waved his arm, tearing apart the space and sending a man behind him into the boundless soul world. Following that, the other monarchs sent their people in one after another. It's up to you. The mysterious sky monarch waved his arm, tearing apart the space and sending Night Sorrow into the boundless soul world. The space constantly changed. After half a cup of tea's time, Night Sorrow finally calmed down. Shaking his dizzy head, Night Sorrow carefully checked the situation around him. In the boundless soul world, strength was important, but so was luck. If he was unlucky, he might be sent into the territory of a king-level demonic beast and be done for. After checking for a while, Night Sorrow didn't find any danger. There wasn't any pressure, and there weren't any strong energy waves. Night Sorrow took out a jar of wine and pondered. Without a map of the boundless soul world, he could only search in the dark. At the very least, he didn't have a map. It was the mysterious sky monarch who didn't have one. It should be said that most monarchs didn't have a map. If there was one, it would be the purple firmament monarch who had entered once. However, this place appeared randomly, and the coordinates weren't easy to determine. Without a detailed map, it was useless. However, Night Sorrow had his own advantages. With the 9 regions world's origin, his perception was strong. As long as he was close to the core of the boundless soul world, he would be able to sense the specific location. After all, the boundless cliff where the soul cultivation liquid was located was equivalent to the world's origin. After calming down, Night Sorrow began to move forward. Chapter 1053. Outside the boundless soul world, the Great Cloud Sovereign looked at the Black Heaven Sovereign and asked, Black Heaven, how long do you plan to protect him? How long? I haven't thought about it yet. The Black Heaven Sovereign replied coldly. Are you bent on making things difficult for me? The Tsanya monarch's eyes were filled with malice. So what if I'm bent on going against you? You're so arrogant now. Are you trying to threaten me? If you continue to spout nonsense, I'll kill every member of the Gray Cloud sect that enters the sky profound world. The Black Heaven Sovereign's robes fluttered. He was furious. Black Heaven, you don't have to do that. It's not a big deal. The No Beginning Sovereign took a step forward and stood between the two. No Beginning, it's rare for our sky profound world to have such an outstanding young man. Does he really think that we're afraid of him? The Black Heaven Sovereign said. So I'm afraid of you? The Gray Cloud Sovereign was infuriated by the Black Heaven Sovereign's words. You guys are really something. Can't you guys stop for a while? The Purple Cloud Sovereign said helplessly. The Black Heaven Sovereign wants to stop, but some people are too shameless. The Seven Rain Sovereign smiled and said something that made the Gray Cloud Sovereign want to vomit blood. Seven Rain, you and I are irreconcilable. The Gray Cloud Sovereign roared. A glowing battle blade appeared in his hand. At this moment, the Black Heaven Sovereign's sword appeared. The Sea Wave Sovereign also took a step forward. In this conflict, the Seven Rain Monarch could be said to be on the side of the profound sky world. The Black Heaven Monarch could not possibly back down. Furthermore, the Seven Rain Monarch and the Sea Wave Monarch had a close personal relationship. They were as close as sisters. If there was a problem, the Sea Wave Monarch would help without any reason. Come, Gray Cloud, let me see if you have the right to be arrogant. The Seven Rain Sovereign's body was covered in fog. His famous weapon, the Seven Rain Sword, appeared in his hand. All right, everyone give me some face. There's no need for this conflict. Gray Cloud, you should restrain yourself. This is not appropriate. The No Beginning Sovereign stood out and said. The No Beginning Sovereign did not want to interfere in the Gray Cloud Sovereign's affairs. He also did not like the Gray Cloud Sovereign. However, they were all from the Sky Dome world. He could not watch the Gray Cloud Sovereign get bullied. I'll give Brother Wushir some face today. You're really spoiled. The Seven Rain Monarch took a step back and put away his Seven Rain sword. Monarch Seven Rains sheathed his sword while Monarch Black Heaven and Monarch Sea Billow retreated as well. Monarch No Beginning was not only powerful, but he also had a high reputation. He did not seek fame or fortune and would not reject anyone who asked him for help. No Beginning thanks everyone here. Sovereign No Beginning cupped his fists towards Sovereign Xian Tian and the others. He had no other choice. If it was a real battle, he would not be afraid of anyone. In fact, he would even dare to fight if others joined hands with him. However, there was no way he could fight now. The Tsangyan Monarch had gone overboard with his actions, and no one could tolerate it. In addition, if a battle were to break out, he would probably be pulled aside by Sovereign Zishao and the others to drink tea. Thus, he would not be allowed to participate. Brother No Beginning, I really do need your help. Lord Xiantian cupped his fists at Lord No Beginning. Ask for my help. Sure, let's see if I can help. The King of No Beginning nodded. Brother Wushir, you have a King Grade teleportation crystal. It's not that useful. Why don't you give it to me? Brother Wushir, please name your price. Xian Tian Monarch did not hide anything from the other monarchs and spoke his mind. Haha, I also know that you have a King Grade teleportation crystal, Xian Tian. I will give it to you. As for the reward, you could do whatever you want. However, why do you need it? King No Beginning took out a light blue teleportation crystal from his storage ring and threw it to Xian Tian Monarch. I'm asking for a favor from that brat. He doesn't want anything else but a King Grade teleportation crystal. I won't take it for free. This is a heavenly origin stone. Use it as you see fit. Xian Tian Monarch threw a black stone to No Beginning. That was a King Grade teleportation crystal. I understand. I hope you can do it. No Beginning laughed. He knew that this was the price Xian Tian Monarch had to pay for asking Night Sorrow to come out. Brother Xian Tian, you won't be disappointed, Seven Rain Monarch said with a smile. I have this feeling. As for whether it will work or not, that's another story. Xian Tian Monarch was looking forward to it. However, he felt that Night Sorrow's chances were not high. Everyone just wait and see, Yuan Ling Realm Lord said. Night Sorrow explained to the 9 domain origins to help him investigate. Then, he started to move forward. An aboriginal world with a low cultivation civilization. What had the most was resources. As Night Sorrow moved forward, he kept collecting materials. Excited, Night Sorrow was very excited. This was because the resources here were abundant. As he moved forward, the materials entered his pockets. As for the direction, Night Sorrow randomly chose it. Currently, he could not determine which direction was the center of the boundless soul world. He could only rely on his luck. Wrong. Night Sorrow was not worried. Even if he went astray and ended up in a spatial barrier, he could just change direction. 2 years was enough. If one's cultivation was low, traveling would be slow and waste a lot of time. Now that Night Sorrow's cultivation was at the half-step king realm, he was good at speed. The time he spent on traveling was not bad. He just needed to collect resources. After a month, something that made Night Sorrow speechless happened. It was as he had expected. He had run to the spatial barrier, which was the edge of the boundless soul world. After taking out a jar of wine and drinking 2 mouthfuls to calm himself down, Night Sorrow made a decision. He would first run around the spatial barrier of the boundless soul world and determine the direction according to the extension of the spatial barrier. Due to the suppression of the spatial turbulence, almost all spatial worlds were circular. This way, there was no force. He could determine the direction of the center by following the spatial barrier. In addition, it was easy to produce spiritual stones near the spatial barrier. Night Sorrow would not be left empty-handed. While flying, Night Sorrow also collected spiritual stones. First release Z after traveling for a month. He had collected thousands of top-grade spiritual stones and a lot of attribute crystals. Night Sorrow also planned to change direction. He needed to earn resources, but he could not delay business. The main purpose of this trip was the soul cultivating liquid. Only by obtaining the soul cultivating liquid could he complete his mission. The King Grade Transfer Crystal was too important to him and the 9 Regions world. After a month of flying, Night Sorrow could already determine the central area of the boundless soul world. While flying towards the central area, Night Sorrow was also very careful. He was not afraid of Saint King Grade monster beasts, but if he encountered a King Grade monster beast, it would be troublesome. If he encountered one that was not good at speed, it would be fine, but if he encountered one that was good at speed, it would be bad luck. Yishang was even looking forward to seeing if his original body would wake up from his meditative state. That way, his doppelganger would have the same enlightenment through the soul link, and his strength would soar. If he really entered the Sovereign King realm, then he wouldn't have to worry about his safety. However, this was just Yishang's wishful thinking. Chapter 1054. All of a sudden, Night Sorrow felt his hair stand on end. Danger! Night Sorrow knew that this was an intuition before danger. He immediately sent out a spatial rift, entered the spatial turbulence, and then smoothed out the space. Not long after Night Sorrow entered the spatial turbulence, a winged man with tiger skin markings on his face appeared. The man looked around, and at the same time, his nose twitched. Double-winged flying tiger. King-class double-winged flying tiger. Night Sorrow was glad that he had escaped quickly. If he had been any slower, he would have been discovered. If he had been discovered, he would have been hunted down even if he entered the spatial turbulence. After searching for a while, the double-winged flying tiger left. Now that he felt safe, Night Sorrow changed directions and traveled through the spatial turbulence. After traveling 200 miles, Night Sorrow tore open the spatial barrier and returned to the boundless soul plane. Terrifying. The boundless soul plane was very terrifying. Night Sorrow had only left the spatial barrier for a short distance before encountering a king-class monster beast. It could be seen that the number of king-class monster beasts in the boundless soul plane was very large. Night Sorrow felt that there would be a lot of casualties in the boundless soul plane this time. He had the 9-domain origin bead, and his perception and detection were strong, so he could avoid danger in time. However, the others could not. If they encountered a king-class monster beast, they would scatter like birds and beasts. Those who were chased would be unlucky, and those who were not would survive. With the experience of encountering the double-winged flying tiger, Night Sorrow was very careful when moving forward. He used the 9-domain origin bead and fused his soul power to detect. This way, he could sense danger in advance. Night Sorrow's soul power was already strong to begin with, exceeding the level of his cultivation level. With the help of a 9-zones origin pearl, his detection and perception abilities were at the level of a monarch. That was why he had been able to discover the double-winged flying sky tiger in advance. In reality, the situation was just as Night Sorrow had estimated. The origin spirit world had lost half of its forces, and it was the same for the Seven Rain world. They were all unlucky enough to charge into the territory of king-level demonic beasts, and the result was that they were slaughtered. The people of the Xian celestial realm were a little better. They didn't encounter any terrifying demon beasts. Thousand Rose greeted everyone. If they encountered any king-level demon beasts, they were to stay close to her and not resist her soul power. This way, she could take everyone into her spatial treasure. Second sister, if we encounter a king realm demon beast, we should scatter and run for our lives. Anyway, everyone has magnetic needles. Even if we don't gain anything, it won't be a problem for us to go back. Qianyu voiced his confusion. Normally, your strategy isn't wrong. However, Night Sorrow gave me something. If we encounter a king who isn't particularly overbearing, we might be able to get through 2 difficulties. Thousand Rose looked at her brother and mentioned the existence of the 7 absolute poison smoke. Our brother is very kind. However, I still don't understand why he doesn't want to be with us. I believe he doesn't think we're a burden. There must be other reasons, said Qianyu. He couldn't figure it out on this matter. There are some things that you can understand if you think about it carefully. He came with the Great Ancestor. In other words, he might have some agreement with the Great Ancestor to be with us. It's fine if he doesn't gain anything, but what if he does? Try to understand him. He's different from us. He has too many people around him to take care of, said Thousand Rose with a sigh. It's not easy. It's really not easy for my brother, said Qianyu with some emotion. His path of growth is different from ours. His experience are stronger than ours. He has been honed by real blades. If there's one person who survives such an adventure, it will definitely be him. It won't be anyone else, said Thousand Rose. Thousand Rose admired Night Sorrow's strength. She had been defeated at the first sacred ceremony of 100 realms, while Night Sorrow had come out on top. This was the difference between them. Second sister is right. We don't have to worry about him. Let's consider our safety first. The water here is too deep, said Qianyu. Night Sorrow groped his way forward. There were resources to collect, but he was still very vigilant. No matter what, he kept his soul power spread out to ensure his safety. After collecting some of the main ingredients for the Spirit Enlightenment pill, Night Sorrow returned to the Dragon Cauldron. He took out the teapot and brewed a pot of tea. He felt that some special worlds really had to be entered. There was nothing to say about the quantity and quality of the resources. One had to know that the value of a Spirit Enlightenment pill was equivalent to 3 Saint Spirit Stones. Moreover, there was a price but no market. There would be people who would buy Spirit Enlightenment pills immediately, but even if you had Saint Spirit Stones, you might not be able to get Spirit Enlightenment pills. With resources in hand, there was no shortage of Spirit Stones. The path of cultivation would be much smoother. After drinking a pot of tea, Night Sorrow left the Dragon Cauldron and continued forward. After advancing for 4 hours, Night Sorrow discovered a special race. It was the Earth Dragon. The strongest among them was a Peak Saint King. You can read it as soon as possible. Originally, Night Sorrow had no intention of fighting. However, when he was collecting materials, this group of Earth Dragons attacked him. He could only fight back. The Earth Dragon's dragon blood was much stronger than the 5-clawed pterosaur's dragon blood. It could be used to refine the Saint Spirit pill. In other words, it was a pill that could increase a saint cultivation by 1 level. This also required a Saint King alchemist to refine. Killing demonic beasts below the level of a monarch was not difficult for Yishang. After collecting the dragon blood materials, Yishang continued on his journey. As his cultivation increased, Night Sorrow's temperament changed. He would not kill for no reason, just like this Earth Dragon. Although Knight Sorrow needed the Earth Dragon's blood, if the Earth Dragon did not attack him, he would not take the initiative to kill it. After collecting the materials and moving forward, Knight Sorrow was in a good mood. If there was danger, he would just hide. With the will of space and will of time, an ordinary junior king would not be able to catch up to him. As he moved forward, Knight Sorrow discovered another ore vein and began to dig. Knight Sorrow dug for 5 days. The spirit stones were stored in a few storage rings. If they could not fit, he stored them in the dragon cauldron. Just as Knight Sorrow finished digging the ore vein and was resting for tea, he discovered that something was wrong. A man with green scales on his forehead appeared at the top of the mine. Intermediate King. Knight Sorrow knew that this man's cultivation was at least Intermediate King. With his half-step King cultivation, he could see the cultivation of level 3 King and below. However, Knight Sorrow could not see through this man's cultivation. Stuck in the pit, Knight Sorrow was a little dazed. He did not even have the chance to escape. How could he escape when he was stuck? In a hurry, Yishan swallowed the antidote for the 7 deadly poison smoke. He remembered to take out a bottle of the 7 deadly poison smoke and held it in his hand. "Come out and die." The man with the green scales on his forehead roared at the pit. Knight Sorrow did not move. He wanted to seize the opportunity to escape. If he was not calm at this moment, it would cause serious consequences. "Come out or not, you will die." The man with the green scales on his head shouted at the pit. Knight Sorrow did not know what this green-scaled king's true form was. There was no way he could fight, so he could only take the opportunity to run. "We have no enmity between us. Lord King won't kill me directly, right?" Knight Sorrow replied. He wanted to see if this would work. Chapter 1055. There's no point in talking so much. I don't need a reason to kill you. Get out here. The green-scaled king roared at the cave. Then come and kill me. Sorrow raised his protective shield and crushed the bottle of 7 poison smoke with his left hand. At this moment, Knight Sorrow's protective shield had a special energy. It was the energy of the antidote to the 7 extinction poison smoke. It isolated the smoke from the protective shield. At this moment, the green-scaled king also entered the pit and rushed towards Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow grabbed some Sara with his right hand and threw it behind him as he quickly retreated. The green-scaled king rushed forward and a green bone blade slashed towards Knight Sorrow. The pit was very narrow and not suitable for fast movement. However, the underground rock couldn't withstand Knight Sorrow's spatial energy slash. As he retreated, Knight Sorrow slashed towards the ground and quickly used Sky Splitter. He wanted to open up a path of retreat and a path of survival. At this moment, the green-scaled king's body trembled and he stopped moving forward. His protective shield was stained with a green light. That was the poison of the 7 extinction poison smoke. The green-scaled king stopped chasing, but Knight Sorrow was still running. He knew that the 7 extinction poison smoke was powerful, but it definitely couldn't threaten the life of a mid-level king. It would only affect him a little. Scuttling to the ground, Knight Sorrow quickly flew for thousands of miles before stopping to rest. This was because the 7 extinction poison smoke was effective. Otherwise, he wouldn't have a chance to survive. After finding a safe place, Knight Sorrow smashed the dragon cauldron into the ground and went to rest. "Free forever?" Little Z said. During this period of time, Knight Sorrow was very nervous. After all, he didn't know what the green-scaled king's cultivation was. He really wanted to kill him. After resting for half a day, Knight Sorrow came out of the dragon cauldron and continued forward. He collected alchemy materials and smithing materials. He didn't leave anything behind. As for the time, Knight Sorrow had a plan. In addition, the 9 regions world's origin was clearer than him about the concept of time. Every month, it would remind Knight Sorrow once. At this time, Knight Sorrow had already been in the Boundless Soul world for 2 months. There weren't many battles because he didn't attack him. Knight Sorrow didn't know how the others were doing. He felt that he was doing well. He had received a lot of resources and only encountered one danger. With the 7 extinction poison smoke, as long as he didn't meet the king who was good at poison and speed, Night was safe. Those who were still alive after running away all went into hiding. Those who were able to cultivate to peak stage, Saint Kings and half-step monarchs were not fools. Personal safety was very important. If they ran away and were alone, no one would know what they were doing. It was better to cultivate on the spot and return when it was time. This way, there would not be any danger. Everyone wanted opportunities and benefits, but their lives were the most important. Even if it was a clone, no one was willing to die. After all, the price to nurture a clone was very high. It hurt the soul. A clone was equivalent to a second life. Qian Shuai had already used a bottle of 7 extinction poison smoke. This way, she ensured that the people of the Xiantian Empire didn't die. After escaping, Qian Shuai let everyone out. This is the chance Night Sorrow gave us to live. There's only one more chance like this. Sigh. This isn't a place where cultivators below the king can barge in. The result of barging in is death. Without Brother Ye's help, we'll probably lose some people here, Qian Yu said with some emotion. Let's continue forward. If this happens again, and we've used up all our life-saving methods, we won't go any deeper. We'll go back when we need to. If it's not our opportunity, we can't force it. I think Lord Great Ancestor and Father won't blame us, Qian Shuai said. Try your best. If it doesn't work, we have to retreat. We can't be careless about this. Qian Ren nodded. This was what Qian Jinyu had told Yin Yu before they left. The soul-cultivating liquid was important, but the future of the Xiantian Empire couldn't be ignored. Peak Saint Kings and half-step kings were the future. They were the seedlings to enter the king realm. They couldn't be used as cannon fodder. Night Sorrow estimated that the situation of those who entered wouldn't be very good, but he didn't expect it to be so bad. He moved towards the central area every day. Because of his high mental state, he was often tired. When he was tired, Night Sorrow would enter the dragon cauldron to drink a pot of wine and make a pot of tea to ease his mood. At this time, in front of the small space world barrier of the infinite soul realm, some sovereigns didn't look good because the soul crystals in their hands had turned dark. That was the sign of people dying. Lord Xiantian looked at the soul crystal in his hand and then looked at Qian Jinyu. Are there any losses? No, not a single one. Qian Jinyu was still very happy because it seemed that only the people of the Xiantian celestial realm were not injured. Yes, that kid is also alive and kicking. Lord Xiantian put the soul crystal in his hand into his sleeve. He was holding the soul crystal of Night Sorrow's soul clone. Brother Xiantian, you're lucky. I guess the thing that kid gave your descendant worked. That's why your descendant didn't die, the 7 Rain Sovereigns said to Lord Xiantian. Huh. This time, I've invited a treasure. Even if he doesn't get anything, as long as he comes back alive, I'll give him this king-class teleportation crystal, Lord Xiantian said. That's a beautiful move. It's purely to buy people's hearts, Lord Purple Cloud said with a smile. No, he saved my Xiantian Empire from losing people. Just because of that, I have to give him a gift. Buy people's hearts? That kid isn't that easy to buy. He's arrogant, Lord Xiantian said. The others smiled disapprovingly, but the 7 Rains sovereign knew that Lord Xiantian was telling the truth. If Night Sorrow was easy to buy, he would be in the 7 Rains world right now. This time, he would be fighting for her. Actually, Xiantian, you have the biggest hope. In the infinite domain, he also flew alone, but he took all the benefits. There's no king there. This is fate and fate. The most important thing is that he has the strength, no beginning sovereign said. Night Sorrow was still moving forward. He was still far from the central area. Besides, the central area of the infinite soul plane was huge. It was hard to say where the infinite cliff was. Night Sorrow knew that he would face 2 difficulties on this trip to the infinite soul plane. First, he had to find the infinite cliff. Only by finding the infinite cliff could he do what he wanted. Second, he had to find the infinite cliff and find a way to get the soul cultivation liquid under the guard of the king-class demonic beast. Night Sorrow had thought about it. He felt that his chances were high. For example, he could enter the spatial turbulence in advance and sneak near the location of the soul cultivation liquid. Then, he could wait for an opportunity to steal it. Third, he could poison it. At the thought of poisoning, Night Sorrow felt that he had to thank Elder Zhang properly when he returned. If it wasn't for the 7 absolute poison smoke, it would have been a big problem for him to escape the pursuit of the green-scaled king. Chapter 10:56. Night Sorrow also paid attention to the poison resources. If the poison was heaven-defying, it was the highest level, which was the king-level poison material. He still had to collect it. With the improvement of his cultivation base, when he enters the king realm, Night Sorrow may not need poison. But what about the people around him? Of course, they need it. Poison can be used for self-protection. And of course, there must be a corresponding antidote. In Night Sorrow's heart, the safety of the people around him was more important than anything else. As time went by, Night Sorrow was getting closer and closer to the core area of the Boundless Soul Realm. He was also getting more and more careful, because there were bound to be many king-level monsters in the core area. If a monster beast wants to cultivate successfully, there are several prerequisites, but these prerequisites are easy to meet in the Boundless Soul Realm. First of all, talent. Some races that are favored by heaven and earth naturally have great talent. The second point is the density of spiritual energy. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the Boundless Soul Realm is very rich, and there is no problem with this. As for the comprehension of rules, some talented monsters, when they cultivate to a certain level, have the power of rules themselves, such as Qianyu and Yimei. The most important point is the place where the will of heaven and earth manifests. Night Sorrow has found 2 such places, and so far he has found 2. It is not surprising that there are other places. The prerequisites to become a king-level cultivator, plus the accumulation of time, it is not surprising that there are many king-level monster beast cultivators. As he moved forward, Night Sorrow also bypassed 2 king-level monsters. This is thanks to Night Sorrow's strong soul force. In addition, Night Sorrow has the power of the 9 regions to protect his body. The power of the 9 regions is the power of the world, and the power of the world will not emit strong energy fluctuations. It is not easy for the king-level monsters in the Boundless Soul Realm to find them. They are all found by Night Sorrow first. On the 3rd day of the 3rd month, Night Sorrow is in a dilemma. He found a king-level monster beast, which is a level 2 king. Night Sorrow can detect its cultivation, he can avoid it, but in fact, Night Sorrow does not want to go. The habitat of king-level monsters is generally a place with rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It is a paradise for heads/air. This time, the level 2 king-level monster that Night Sorrow found was the 6-winged Bat King. The place where it lived has a spiritual energy of origin. Not to mention the origin stone, there's also a fruit tree growing in the origin spiritual energy pool. Vermilion fruit. That is a king-level alchemy material, the main ingredient of the 9 transformation pill, which can strengthen the body. If it was in the past, Yishang might not have been so knowledgeable. However, after cultivating alchemy in the Heavenly Cauldron sect, Yishang had dabbled in both monarch-level pills and ingredients. For example, the Yun Spirit Pill was a heaven-defying pill that could change a cultivator's aptitude. Back in the 9 Domains world, Yishang did not even recognize the main ingredient of the Yun Spirit Pill, the Yun Spirit Pill. Of course, even if Night Sorrow obtains the materials of a Yun Spirit Pill, he will not be able to refine it. Only a king-level alchemist, which is to say a heavenly master-level alchemist, can refine it. The 9 transformation pill is the same as the Yun Spirit Pill. They are both king-level pills. Although he can't refine it for the time being, he has to accumulate it. Night Sorrow is very eager to refine the 9 transformation pill. Why? If he wants to cultivate the Myriad Tao Tome to the imperishable realm, which is the king realm, he will need resources. The comprehension of the will of time can allow Night Sorrow's body to contain the will of heaven and earth, allowing him to enter the imperishable realm. After entering the imperishable realm, the strength of the body and energy will need to increase. This requires the support of resources. The life spirit liquid can be used, but it is not enough. The 9 transformation pill is Knight Sorrow's best choice. After thinking for a while in the Dragon Cauldron, Knight Sorrow decided to do it. Wealth comes from danger. The 2-star King level 6 Wingback King is not a big threat. After deciding to fight for it, Yishan formulated a battle plan. First, he had to take the Jade Pool of Spiritual Origin liquid, snatch the Vermilion Fruit Tree and the Origin Stone, and then escape. If he can use the Will of Time and Space to increase his speed, it will be best if he can get rid of the 6 Wingback King. If not, then he can use the 7 Extinction Poison Smoke. With this thought in mind, Knight Sorrow entered the spatial turbulence and slowly made his way towards the 6-winged Bat King's resting place. Discovered? Knight Sorrow knows that he will not be discovered in the space turbulence, unless it is the king who controls the will of space. The space turbulence and the infinite soul world are 2 different spaces, and their nature is different. Searching from the infinite soul world into the space turbulence, the soul power will be swept away by the space turbulence, and it is a laborious task. Besides, who would waste their soul power to do this? It is completely useless. However, it was different to probe the outside of the spatial turbulence. It had a specific target. Knight Sorrow flew in the space turbulence. The energy and rule power of the space turbulence is not a big problem for Knight Sorrow. He has the will of space and the rule power to protect himself, and has the most basic suppression to the space turbulence. Gradually, Knight Sorrow approached the area where the 6-winged Bat King is. It is a cave. Knight Sorrow entered the cave and observed from the side. At this time in the cave, the 6-winged Bat King, who was meditating next to the Origin spiritual liquid pool, stood up. It instinctively felt uneasy, and its mind was restless. This is a kind of feeling that a high-level cultivator has. The 6-winged Bat King stood up and fully displayed itself in front of Knight Sorrow. The 6-winged Bat King is a man with a tall and sturdy body. It is wearing a blood-red battle robe and has 3 pairs of blood-red wings on its back. Its face is full of red stripes, a pair of pointed ears, and 4 fangs are exposed outside of its lips. Knight Sorrow stood in the space turbulence and observed the situation. Dragon Cauldron patterns appeared around his body. The Dragon Cauldron has Knight Sorrow's body as the center, spreading energy to protect Knight Sorrow. The Dragon Cauldron has the ability to suppress. Even if Knight Sorrow does not move, the energy of the space turbulence will not be able to pull him. The 6-winged Bat King paces back and forth in the cave. It does not understand why it is feeling uneasy. This is not a good feeling. High-level cultivators understand that some feelings do not come from nowhere. There must be a reason. After pondering for a moment, the 6-winged Bat King moved. It left the cave and flew outside. Since it has a bad feeling, it naturally has to investigate and see if there is a problem. Knight Sorrow's soul force burst forth, constantly probing the 6-winged Bat King's figure. The 6-winged Bat King has gone far away, and Knight Sorrow's spirit rose. Opportunity knocks, but once it will not come again. This is the opportunity Knight Sorrow needs. Knight Sorrow stretched out his arm and tore through space. He entered the cave and waved his right hand to use a space blade, cutting off the bottom of the Origin spiritual liquid pool. He collected the Origin spiritual liquid pool into the Dragon Cauldron and then tore through space again to enter the space turbulence. After entering the space turbulence, Knight Sorrow waved his hand and smoothed out the space crack. After doing all this, Knight Sorrow tried to restrain the energy fluctuations. But in fact, the energy fluctuations were still detected by the 6-winged Bat King. By the time it sensed the energy fluctuations, Knight Sorrow had already entered the space turbulence. Chapter 1057. Knight Sorrow did all this very quickly. Even though the 6-winged Bat King sensed the energy fluctuations, it did not discover Knight Sorrow's figure. After entering the spatial turbulence, Knight Sorrow began to fly. Not far from the cave entrance, Night Sorrow brushed past the six-winged Bat King. However, one was in the infinite world, while the other was in the spatial turbulence of the infinite world. In the spatial turbulence, Night Sorrow used his fastest speed to fly away from this troublesome place. This time he had profited. While flying, Night Sorrow could still detect that the six-winged Bat King was crazily smashing and jumping around in the cave. The six-winged Bat King was counting on the vermilion fruit to strengthen its body, but the vermilion fruit had not matured yet, so it had been waiting for it to mature. Consuming the vermilion fruit before it matured would not be effective, but now it was all for naught. It did not understand what was going on. It had not discovered any opponents or enemies at all, but now the pool of origin spiritual liquid was gone. Everything was gone. This made it extremely angry. It simply could not accept it. Forever QJ long free. Look, Night Sorrow also knew that the vermilion fruit had not matured yet. This was also the reason why he had uprooted the origin spiritual liquid pool. He did not put in his storage ring because he was afraid that the vermilion fruit would die without air. There was no such disadvantage in the Dragon Cauldron. After flying for thousands of miles, Night Sorrow left the spatial turbulence. The Dragon Cauldron shrank and smashed into the ground. He entered the Dragon Cauldron to rest and admire his results. The Dragon Cauldron had its own space, and it was not affected by the size of the outside. Standing in the Dragon Cauldron space, Night Sorrow looked at the origin spiritual liquid pool, the origin stone, and the vermilion fruit tree. His heart was filled with joy. The 9 regions' origins told Night Sorrow that the vermilion fruit tree in the Dragon Cauldron would still be damaged. He could put it in the 9 regions' origin bead and use the power of the world to nourish it. Not only would it not be damaged, but it would also mature quickly. Night Sorrow nodded and let the 9 regions' origins store the origin spiritual liquid pool in the origin bead. The Dragon Cauldron was a treasure, but it was still very different from the 9 regions' origin beads. Heavenly materials and earthly treasures were all produced by the Bell Spirit Chi within a world. They required the support of a world's power, even if it was weak. This was something that the Dragon Cauldron could not achieve, but the 9-region origin bead could. After drinking a jar of wine and having a good rest, Night Sorrow advanced with satisfaction. As long as he could enter the King Realm, refining the 9 transformation pill would not be a problem. Now, Night Sorrow already had a lot of king-level pill materials, such as the Yun Spirit Pill that could improve one's cultivation aptitude, the 9 transformation pill that could improve one's physical fitness, and so on. Night Sorrow didn't feel guilty about snatching the 6-winged Bat King's fortuitous encounter. Fortuitous encounters had to be fought for. If he fought for it, it would be his. Night Sorrow continued to explore carefully. No matter how much he gained, safety was the first priority. If this clone died, the 9 regions origin bead would bring his weapons and resources back to the 9 regions world, but the loss would also be great. It was not easy to nurture a soul clone with 90% of its strength. What made Night Sorrow even more puzzled was that he had been here for a long time, but he had not met a cultivator from the 9 Clouds World Group. Although the chances of meeting were low, he should still be able to meet them when he was close to the core area. Even if he did not meet anyone, he should have seen traces of collecting materials and ores, but now he did not see anything. What Night Sorrow did not know was that there was not a single person from the 9 Clouds World Group heading towards the central area. Qian Xiangwei, Qian Yu, and the others did not dare to move forward recklessly. The 2 bottles of 7 Extremes poison smoke that Night Sorrow had given her had already been used. After the other monarch subordinates were scattered by the king-level monsters, they all ran to a more hidden place to cultivate, waiting for the time to go out. They all cherished their lives more. At this time, in front of the space barrier of the small world, Monarch Yuan Ling muttered, "For such a long time, no one has fallen. This is not working. They must have run to some corner to lie down, waiting for the time to expire." The other monarchs also smiled. The situation of all the monarch's subordinates was like this. Except for the beginning stage, no one had fallen. This was not in line with common sense. Only Monarch Yuan Ling could explain it this way. to be able to cultivate to the monarch level. Which one was not a genius? After the situation was analyzed, the result naturally came out. This is also helpless. It's too dangerous inside. When I went in, I also had a narrow escape. I could come out alive because I had a special life-saving method. Monarch Zishao said. Monarch Zishao also needed the soul cultivation liquid, but he could no longer enter the infinite soul plane. However, he knew how bad the situation inside was. This is gambling on luck. We are gambling on luck. They're also gambling on cultivation resources, gambling on a future. But knowing that there is no hope and still risking their lives, this is something that no one would do except for that little guy. Monarch Hailan said. Everyone knew who the little guy Monarch Hailan was talking about was. He is not stupid, but because he is young, he has a drive. Besides, his strength is enough. If he is not a king-level expert who is good at speed, if he just runs, it will not be easy to kill him. Monarch Seven Rains said. Yes, currently only Xiantian has some hope. We have no chance. Monarch No Beginning nodded. His disciple Hei Feng's soul avatar had already fallen. I'm also looking forward to it, but this chance is indeed not high. Whether or not we can find the immeasurable cliff is a problem. We don't know how many dangers are hidden along the way. Once we reach the immeasurable cliff, the high-level demonic beasts that cultivate there are not that easy to deal with. Xiantian King said. He was indeed looking forward to it, but he also knew how difficult it was to get the soul cultivation liquid. The disciple who fell in my soul avatar will come later. We will ask him about the situation later. Monarch No Beginning said. Black Wind was originally cultivating. It was his soul doppelganger that followed No Beginning's sovereign into infinite soul realm. When his soul doppelganger fell, his cultivation stopped. Now he was on his way to report the situation to No Beginning sovereign. At this time, all the monarchs were worried. Although they had cultivated for many years and had seen through some things, they still cherished outstanding descendants. It was not easy for an outstanding descendant to cultivate to the level of a Saint King or a half-step king. Therefore, no one wanted their subordinates to fall in the infinite soul plane. For hours later, Hei Feng appeared. He was brought by Luo Qi Sha. Xiao, what's the situation inside? Monarch No Beginning asked. It's bad. Third senior sister and I have encountered 2 king-level monsters. The first time, third senior sister used a sound wave attack to control us and made us run away. The second time, it was a king-level Great Earth Gray Bear. My third senior sister's sound wave attack was ineffective. A few of us died. Hei Feng said, the death rate is too high. We have only been in there for less than half a year, and we have already encountered 2 king-level monsters. It is clear that the infinite soul plane is very dangerous. Monarch No Beginning said. At this time, Yishang was investigating as he flew towards the center of the boundless soul realm. Yishang planned to take care of business first, and then look for materials in a down-to-earth manner. Chapter 1058. If you don't finish the big things and do the small things, you won't feel at ease. After moving forward for a while, the 9 regions' origin guided Night Sorrow, and he felt the core area of the boundless soul realm. Now that I have a direction, let's fight. Night Sorrow murmured in a low voice. At this time, he had no choice but to rush forward and think of a way when he reached the place. Yishang was most worried about encountering a high-class monarch king or a strong middle-class monarch king. If that was the case, he wouldn't stand a chance. Speed advantage was relative. You were the fastest among the children, but no matter how fast the children ran, they could not outrun the adults. Their legs were short, and this was a gap that could not be changed. As he moved forward, Night Sorrow found that he had entered a king's world. This was the land of the dragons, the land of the 4-clawed silver dragons. In the 9 regions world, she helped Night Sorrow get the silver dragon blood essence. The level of the silver dragons in the 9 regions world's silver demon mountain range was not high. The highest level was the venerable rank, but here, not to mention the venerable rank and saint rank, there was Saint King rank and king rank. After detecting 2 king-level silver dragons, Night Sorrow knew that he could not move forward like this. If he was accidentally detected, he would be hunted down. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow flew into the space turbulence. When he rested, he used the dragon cauldron to suppress the space turbulence. He rested and recovered his cultivation base in the dragon cauldron. The dragon cauldron was the same as the space-time treasure pagoda. It needed spirit stones to carry the space turbulence. Now Night Sorrow was a person who did not lack spirit stones. Under such circumstances, Night Sorrow's speed of progress was much slower, and the relative safety was much higher. As he moved forward, Night Sorrow found another good phenomenon. That is, the silver dragons were fond of sleeping, and they were all in deep sleep. Night Sorrow understood that this was the characteristic of the dragons. He continued to move forward. After a while, Night Sorrow would come out, determine the direction, and continue to move forward. In the 5th month since Night Sorrow entered, he arrived at the immeasurable cliff. At this time, he could no longer see the silver dragon. Night Sorrow did not feel happy, even though he could not see the silver dragon. The fact that there was no silver dragon in this area meant that they did not dare to come here. There was an existence that they respected and feared here. Staying in the dragon cauldron, Night Sorrow drank a pot of heart-cleansing tea. After clearing his mind and calming his emotions, Night Sorrow knew that he had to get close to a immeasurable cliff no matter what. The value of the soul cultivation liquid was high, and Black Heaven Monarch only needed 3 drops. This meant that 3 drops could be exchanged for a king-class teleportation crystal. No matter how many of these resources there were, they would never complain about having too many. There was nothing that the soul cultivation fluid couldn't trade for, and there were also benefits to having a stockpile. The Purple Cloud Sovereign didn't need it back then, and he still needed it now. Night Sorrow never lacked confidence in himself. Although he did not enter the King Realm, entering the King Realm was just around the corner. After entering the King Realm, he would slowly cultivate. The Monarch Realm was very far away, but as long as there was time, there was hope. 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, a king's lifespan was unlimited. Ordinary kings had the possibility of dying because of conflicts, fighting for opportunities, and other reasons. However, Night Sorrow would not, because he was a realm lord. As long as he was careful and stayed in the 9 regions world, there would be no possibility of dying. In the 9 Clouds world group, there were many sect leaders, and kings. There were also some monarchs, but currently, only Yin Tian Po was the realm lord. Only Yin Tian Po was called the Flame Realm Lord. Of course, only a limited number of people knew that Night Sorrow was the realm lord, so it did not spread. J. Forever % free Q read small speak when a realm lord cultivated to the king realm. As long as their original body did not leave their own world, they would be immortal. It was impossible for anyone to kill them, unless they destroyed the world first. After organizing his thoughts, Night Sorrow entered the spatial turbulence and rushed towards the immeasurable cliff. In the spatial turbulence, Night Sorrow could investigate everything in reality. After advancing for 2 days, Night Sorrow arrived at the immeasurable cliff. The immeasurable cliff towered into the clouds, causing people to have a respectful heart. The towering mountain seemed to have been cut off. It was the uncanny workmanship of nature. There were a few ancient trees on the immeasurable cliff. Night Sorrow saw a tea tree. It was the best tea tree of the best, the soul-nourishing tea tree. At the bottom of the immeasurable cliff lay a huge monster. It was a 6-horned silver dragon, a 6-star king. This was the conclusion that Night Sorrow had come to after observing a few king-level silver dragons these days. At this time, the silver dragon was still sleeping soundly. In front of its head, there was a stalactite hanging from a cliff. At the tip, there was a drop of sparkling liquid. Soul-nourishing liquid. The tip of the stone bell was the soul-nourishing liquid. The soul-nourishing liquid was in front of him, but Night Sorrow did not dare to leave the spatial turbulence. The energy fluctuation from breaking through the spatial barrier would definitely wake the silver dragon from its deep sleep. Then everything would be over. After Night Sorrow left the immeasurable cliff for some distance, he pondered how to obtain the soul-nourishing liquid without being discovered by the silver dragon. That was the silver dragon king. If he angered it, with a roar, all the silver dragons would surround and attack him. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow felt that the best method was to let the silver dragon sleep even more deeply, making it harder for it to wake up. Soul-pacifying smoke. Using the Requiem smoke, which could make creatures fall into a deep sleep, to deal with the silver dragon was Night Sorrow's idea. Poison smoke would not work. Poison smoke could not kill a 6-star king rank silver dragon. Moreover, it would wake up once it was injured. The soul-pacifying smoke and the 7 extremes poison smoke were different in nature. The soul-pacifying smoke was not poisonous. This way, the silver dragon would not be alerted by the danger. Materials. Night Sorrow left the vicinity of the immeasurable cliff and began to look for materials. Looking for materials was also a dangerous process. He had to be careful not to be discovered by other king-rank silver dragons. Fortunately, the soul-pacifying smoke was only a saint-rank pill. Although the materials were difficult to find, it was not impossible to find. Using half a month, Night Sorrow gathered all the materials for the soul-pacifying smoke. Placing the dragon cauldron underground, Night Sorrow entered the dragon cauldron and began to refine the soul-pacifying smoke. Although the soul-pacifying smoke was a saint-rank pill, Night Sorrow was very careful when refining it because he could not afford to fail. For hours later, the extremely condensed soul-pacifying smoke was successfully refined by Night Sorrow. In order to increase the quantity and hold on for a little longer, Night Sorrow refined all the materials for the soul-pacifying smoke and refined more than 30 bottles of soul-pacifying smoke. Knowing that it was the main course and the most crucial moment, Night Sorrow took out a jar of wine and slowly drank it, calming his emotions. He understood that whether he lived or died, whether he succeeded or failed, all depended on the next strike of the hammer. If he succeeded, he would leave with a great harvest. If not, the possibility of his clone leaving alive was not high. In front of a 6-star Saint King rank Silver Dragon King, escaping into the spatial turbulence was useless. Night Sorrow did not dare to enter the spatial turbulence to get close to the Silver Dragon King. This was because when he tore open the spatial barrier in the spatial turbulence, the energy fluctuations produced would definitely wake the Silver Dragon King up. Night Sorrow felt that the safest way was to shrink the dragon cauldron to the limit and slowly fly forward. After getting close, he could directly release the soul-pacifying smoke. This way, it would not cause any energy fluctuations. Feeling that there were no loopholes, Night Sorrow began to take action. He controlled the dragon cauldron, which was the size of a grain of sand, to approach the area where the Silver Dragon King was. Slow, very slow. Night Sorrow controlled the dragon cauldron to fly very slowly. The main reason was that he did not want to cause any energy fluctuations and wake the Silver Dragon King up. Chapter 1059. Night Sorrow advanced very slowly, mainly because he did not want to cause any energy fluctuations that would alert the Silver Dragon King. So be it if he was slow, Night Sorrow was not in a hurry. Stability was the most important thing. Obtaining the treasure safely was the way to go. It took Night Sorrow 4 days to arrive in front of the Silver Dragon King with the help of the wind. Night Sorrow slowly moved the dragon cauldron to the bottom of the Silver Dragon King's huge nose. He opened the poison bottle of the Requiem smoke and used the 9 regions world's origin energy to wrap the Requiem smoke and send it out of the dragon cauldron, directly under the Silver Dragon King's nose. As the Silver Dragon King breathed, the Requiem smoke was sucked in by its twitching nose. After a bottle of Requiem smoke, the Silver Dragon King's snoring became even louder, and its nostrils flashed. Continue. To be safe, Night Sorrow wrapped the Requiem smoke with the 9 regions world's origin energy and continued to send it into the Silver Dragon King's nose. After 3 bottles of concentrated Requiem smoke were sent into the Silver Dragon King's nostrils, Night Sorrow waved his arm, and a jade bottle flew out and landed below the inverted stalactite. At this moment, the sparkling soul cultivation liquid on the stalactite dripped into the jade bottle. For Jay, what Night Sorrow needed now was time, as long as the Silver Dragon King did not wake up. The 3 bottles of Requiem smoke lasted for 2 hours. At this time, the Silver Dragon King's snoring became a little weaker. Night Sorrow continued to send a bottle of Requiem smoke into the Silver Dragon King's nostrils. He started to use 3 bottles of Requiem smoke. Night Sorrow wanted to let the Silver Dragon King enter a deep sleep. Now, he did not need to do that. He could use bottles one by one to let the Silver Dragon King continue to sleep. In 2 hours, Night Sorrow's jade bottle had collected 3 drops of soul cultivation liquid. Because the soul cultivation liquid was special, its energy was very condensed and would not evaporate. Night Sorrow did not have to consider the problem of changing bottles. Excited. At that moment, Night Sorrow was quite excited because everything was very stable and the Silver Dragon King showed no signs of waking up. He could wait and collect it slowly. When the Night Sorrow had consumed half of his Requiem smoke and 15 bottles, the situation changed. It was not the Silver Dragon King's problem, but the soul-cultivating liquid. The soul-cultivating liquid's production was too slow. Only 1 drop was produced every 2 hours, which was more than twice as slow as before. Night Sorrow understood that the soul cultivation fluid was not endless. He had collected close to 30 drops, with 10 drops per bottle. This was already his 4th bottle. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow decided to wait a little longer. If it didn't work out, then he would leave. This was already a heaven-defying harvest. Another day passed, but the soul-nurturing liquid did not produce a single drop after 6 hours. Night Sorrow knew it was time for him to leave. But before he left, Night Sorrow decided to make a big move, and that was to take all the Holy Spirit stones and crystals beside the Silver Dragon. Dragons like shiny things. All sorts of spirit stones, crystals, gems, and ores were their hobbies. After making his decision, Night Sorrow sent the remaining 10 bottles of Requiem smoke into the Silver Dragon King's nostrils. As the Silver Dragon King's abdomen heaved up and down, snoring thunderously, Night Sorrow used his world energy to protect himself. His figure flashed out of the dragon cauldron and collected the jade bottles of soul-cultivating liquid. Then, he waved his arm and collected all the Holy Spirit stones, attribute crystals, and ores beside the Silver Dragon King into his spatial ring. Then he flew to the soul-nurturing tea tree on the cliff and started digging. However, the 9-domain origins told Night Sorrow that the soul-nurturing tea tree's survival and growth had a lot to do with the immeasurable cliff. It was useless for him to dig it up. Night Sorrow controlled the power of the 9 realms' origin and collected the tea leaves on the soul-nurturing tea tree, leaving only a bare branch. After finishing the fight, he stopped and left. After collecting the soul-nurturing tea tree, Night Sorrow flew into the distance. He had achieved his goal here. Escaping was a victory. After Night Sorrow left the immeasurable cliff for some distance, he burst forth with the will of space and the power of space and started flying rapidly. When Night Sorrow was by the Silver Dragon King's side, he used the 9-domain origins. That was because his world energy was relatively gentle and would not easily attract the Silver Dragon King's attention. Now that he had left the most dangerous area, what was he waiting for if he did not run at full speed? After leaving the Silver Dragon King's territory, Night Sorrow changed his strategy and entered the chaotic space to fly. Outside the Silver Dragon King's territory, there were other monarch-ranked silver dragons residing there. If they barged in recklessly, they would be in big trouble. Traveling through the spatial turbulence would be slower, and they would also consume energy. However, they would be able to avoid some dangers. Comparing the pros and cons, Night Sorrow felt that consuming a little more energy was not a big deal. After spending more than half a month, Night Sorrow passed through the Silver Dragon's territory and arrived at a relatively safe area. Night Sorrow felt more at ease. The main reason was that the Silver Dragon's territory was too dangerous. Because the Silver Dragons were a race that was good at speed, once they were developed, it would be a great crisis. After being safe, Night Sorrow entered the Dragon Cauldron to rest. During this period of rushing, Night Sorrow's nerves were very tense. Now he wanted to relax. Night Sorrow opened a jar of wine and drank a mouthful. He roared and then laughed. It was not easy. This was a big harvest. If he got out smoothly, the soul-nurturing liquid in his hands would be something that could make all the monarchs go crazy. However, he would not take it out. It was best to hide this kind of treasure. After drinking 2 jars of wine, Night Sorrow rested for half a day before continuing on his journey. At the same time, Night Sorrow also collected the resources along the way. It could be said that the Boundless Soul Realm was a paradise for adventurers. There were top-grade materials everywhere, but it was also a grave for adventurers. Behind the rich benefits, there was danger at every step. Night Sorrow avoided the path he came from and slowly moved forward, collecting resources. He was in a very good mood, but the situation corresponded to a saying, "Extreme joy begets sorrow." On this day, Night Sorrow found a big problem. That was, he could not move forward. Why couldn't he move forward? It was because Night Sorrow had fallen into a large natural array. Originally, this array was not in an active state because Night Sorrow had collected a piece of celestial bluestone. The existence of the celestial bluestone interfered with the operation of the natural array. After Night Sorrow collected the celestial bluestone, the array was activated. Night Sorrow wanted to put the celestial bluestone back, but he could not. Night Sorrow was still fine when he did not move. Once he moved, all kinds of energy attacks were launched. Moreover, the energy attacks contained the power of law and the power of will. Heavenly Cycle Stars Array. Night Sorrow pondered for a while and knew what kind of array this was. It was a natural Heavenly Cycle Stars Array. This was not a large array that was artificially arranged. The array foundation was untraceable, and it was very difficult to break. Night Sorrow wanted to break it, but he could not do it because this was a King Great Array. Night Sorrow used the Space Rend, but he could only make the space ripple. The Space Rend could not break through the space barrier. In other words, it would be very difficult for Night Sorrow to enter the chaotic space and leave this place. This made Night Sorrow somewhat confused. He had a time limit. If he could not get out before 2 years, then he would not be able to get out. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow took out the Space Rend and used the Sky Wasteland Kill to attack the space, then used the Space Rend. Chapter 1060. As Night Sorrow attacked, space began to tremble. Following this, Night Sorrow's spatial rend slashed towards the trembling space. Night Sorrow's spatial rend slashed open a thin crack in space. Following this, he used spatial will and spatial laws to try and widen the crack. However, all of this was futile. Even after using up more than half of his spatial will and spatial energy, the spatial crack was still as big as before. Taking a deep breath, Night Sorrow continued to attack the spatial barrier. He knew that it was impossible to break out of this formation. Tearing apart the spatial barrier was his only chance. After attacking a dozen times, Night Sorrow felt that his attacks were still not powerful enough. He had to continue researching and strengthen his attacks. Only then would he be able to tear apart space and escape this formation. Without increasing his cultivation base, it would be very difficult to increase his attack power. Night Sorrow planned to make a breakthrough in his battle skills and increase his attack power. Night Sorrow started researching a new battle skill. It was a spatial attribute battle skill that used spatial energy to unleash the spiral-piercing energy. It was called Spatial Twisting Dragon Kill. Night Sorrow had named it because the spatial energy emitted by the spiral-piercing energy was like a dragon spiraling through space. Night Sorrow had spent over 20 days researching this battle skill because it involved spatial laws and spatial will. After creating the battle skill, Night Sorrow had started researching how to familiarize himself with it. As he became more familiar with it, his attack power would naturally increase. Because he was trapped, Night Sorrow had been cultivating every day. As time passed, the spatial, twisting dragon kill's power grew stronger and stronger. It had already created a black hole in space. However, even if Night Sorrow wanted to go in, it still wasn't enough. He could only continue researching. This time, Night Sorrow's research direction had changed. After using spatial, twisting dragon kill, he would use spatial vibration energy. In other words, after spatial, twisting dragon kill, he would use spatial vibration energy. This was a new path, and Night Sorrow had to continuously explore it. After all, it was two different methods of attack power. Time slowly slipped away. In the blink of an eye, Night Sorrow had been trapped for more than half a year. After nearly a year of bitter cultivation, Night Sorrow's battle prowess had increased by a lot. However, there was still a gap between that and breaking through the spatial barrier. Night Sorrow felt that it would be much faster. After the spatial, twisting dragon kill connected with the shockwave, a black hole appeared in the space. The shockwave also caused spiderweb-like cracks to appear. If it wasn't enough, he would continue his research. Night Sorrow connected the spatial, twisting dragon kill and the shockwave with the shockwave. Because there was a problem with the energy, Night Sorrow used the power of Desolates to connect the shockwave with the shockwave. The combination of these three battle skills was the strongest that Night Sorrow could achieve. Even the average basic king couldn't reach this level. However, Night Sorrow still didn't break through the spatial barrier. This was because the Heavenly Cycle Star Array had an extremely strong recovery ability. As long as it couldn't be broken instantly, the natural Heavenly Cycle Star Array could recover the damage that Night Sorrow caused to the spatial barrier. After thinking for a moment, Night Sorrow slapped himself. He had the Law of Time, so he could use it to resist the array's energy from recovering the spatial barrier. Following that, Night Sorrow activated the Law of Time and isolated the array's energy recovery from the area he attacked. Following that, he waved his hand and attacked the spatial barrier with three battle skills. Night Sorrow's spatial, twisting dragon kill blasted a huge hole in the spatial barrier. Following that, the spiderweb-like area created by the spatial shockwave was shattered by the shockwave. Following that, Night Sorrow entered the spatial turbulence and left the encirclement of the Heavenly Cycle Star Array. Not bad. You've really developed a violent battle skill. However, you're really stubborn. When you first started, you cut a crack in space. Didn't you control the Dragon Cauldron to shrink and enter? Nine Realms Origins communicated with Night Sorrow. Upon hearing Nine Realms Origins words, Night Sorrow reached out and slapped himself again. He hadn't thought about this. He had been thinking about how to enter the spatial turbulence, so he hadn't thought about controlling the Dragon Cauldron to enter. However, Night Sorrow was still satisfied with his gains in half a year. His cultivation level hadn't increased, but his strength had improved greatly. He had once again integrated his strength into high-level battles. It's because you've improved. You've improved quickly under high pressure. That's why I didn't warn you. You might have been able to collect a lot of resources in half a year, but compared to your own strength, resources aren't worth mentioning. There's no comparison at all. The Nine Zones Origins explained why they hadn't warned Night Sorrow. Yes, your own strength is the absolute truth. This half a year was very worth it. For me, my purpose of coming to the Boundless Soul Realm this time has been achieved. The extra time has been exchanged for the improvement of my own strength. It's very good. After Night Sorrow's initial depression, what followed was happiness. Original J, first V send. You don't have much time left. There's still a few months left. The journey is still relatively long, and the situation on the road is more dangerous. In fact, even if you can't cultivate it, I still have to remind you. Nine Realms Origins said. Night Sorrow knew that there wasn't much time left. There was still a long way to go. There were still many king-level obstacles on the road. Using all his strength to detect the danger, Knight Sorrow advanced at full speed. Time waited for no one. If he couldn't reach the space barrier in time, he would be trapped in the boundless soul realm. If there were king-level monsters, Knight Sorrow would avoid them and advance at full speed. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. In front of the space barrier of the small space world, the 9 firmament world cultivators who entered the boundless soul realm came out one after another. Half a month later, the boundless soul realm and the small world would be separated. They couldn't come out even if they wanted to. The sovereigns didn't ask their Saint Kings and Half-Step King about their gains. If they kept hiding, it would be impossible to gain anything. Qing Yin told no beginning sovereign about the situation. She also said that she didn't go to the core area. She only looked for resources in the periphery. I understand. It's good that you can come back alive. No beginning sovereign nodded. He didn't blame his disciple at all. Qing Yin had already done her best. The inside wasn't something they could resist. Qian Xiangwei brought people back and also apologized to Xian Tian Sovereign. She said that if it wasn't for Knight Sorrow's help, they wouldn't have been able to come back alive. The disciples of the 7 Rain Sovereigns also explained the situation. Great Ancestor, I'm sorry. It's too scary inside. I can't do anything. Long Jin said to Hailan Sovereign after exiting the space barrier. You're injured? Hailan Sovereign looked at Long Jin and asked. After the team was broken up by a double-winged flying tiger, I tried to go deeper into the forest. In the end, I was chased by a monarch-level demonic beast for a while. After I was severely injured, I used my family's secret technique to survive, Long Jin said. This is a sea spirit pill. Take it and heal. Hailan Sovereign threw a jade bottle to Long Jin. Long Jin, did you see Knight Sorrow? Xian Tian Sovereign asked. I didn't see him, but I saw the traces of that bastard collecting alchemy materials and refining materials. It was like he was scraping the ground. He didn't even leave a hair for the people behind. He's a fraud. Long Jin muttered. Chapter 1061. Did he keep going deeper? Qian Xiangwei asked. She really didn't want anything to happen to Knight Sorrow. That's a scammer. I thought that the path he took should be safe. In the end, he was injured by a monarch-tier demonic beast and ran away. Then, I returned to the original path and followed his tracks. Then, I was chased by a monarch-tier demonic beast again. What a nuisance. Long Jin cursed. The other monarchs shook their heads. Long Jin's idea was right, but the path suitable for Knight Sorrow might not be suitable for him. So he was tricked. There's only half a month left. Why isn't he back yet? Qian Yu's heart was full of worry. That's enough. You're still worried about him? He crossed the territory of a king-level beast twice without any problems. He won't die, Long Jin said. He was still angry that he had been tricked twice. If he didn't have the ability to protect his life, he would have been tricked to death by Knight Sorrow. Then, someone else came out, but there was no sign of Knight Sorrow. At this moment, Yishan was frantically running for his life. This was because when he was rushing, a monarch-level demon beast suddenly appeared. It was a wandering monarch-level demon beast, so it didn't have a fixed territory. Knight Sorrow had seen this beast before. It was the green-scaled king whose cultivation level he could not see when he was digging the mine. Unfortunately, he met an old rival, a king whose cultivation level could not be seen. All Knight Sorrow could do was run. Knight Sorrow ran into the spatial turbulence while the green-scaled king chased after him. This king will definitely kill you. This time, your poisonous smoke will not be effective, the green-scaled king shouted as it chased. Knight Sorrow knew that the 7 deadly poisonous smoke would not be effective if the green-scaled king was prepared. Fortunately, Knight Sorrow's speed was not affected in the spatial turbulence, but the green-scaled king was affected. After all, it did not have the spatial attribute. With the help of the environment, Knight Sorrow and the green-scaled king's speed were equal. Knight Sorrow would consume both the origin elixir and life elixir at the same time. This way, he would be able to maintain his peak condition. The green-scale king's cultivation was high, and his energy recovery was higher than the consumption in the space turbulence, which meant that he was always in peak condition. The chase continued in the chaotic space. The speed of the green-scaled king was the same as Night Sorrow's in the chaotic space. Therefore, Night Sorrow was not worried. He could replenish his energy. If this continued, even if they reached the spatial barrier, the green-scaled king would not be able to kill him. As for chasing into that small space world, if the green-scaled king dared to enter, he would be in trouble. There were many kings in that small space world. If the green-scaled king dared to enter, he would die. Normally, if one's cultivation was higher than the king's, one would not be able to enter other worlds without using the teleportation circle. This was because the rules of the space world did not allow it. However, the small space world near the boundless soul world was a barren world. In other words, it was broken and had no rules. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed. Night Sorrow was very close to the spatial barrier. He could return to the small world by tearing the spatial barrier. In addition, he did not have much time. The 9 Regions world's origin told Night Sorrow that he only had 2 days. After making the decision, Night Sorrow threw the 3 bottles of 7 deadly poisonous smoke behind him and used his energy to explode them. Then, he tore the space and arrived at the boundless world. Then, he used his bloodline talent to protect himself and flew quickly. Although the 7 deadly poisonous smoke could not hurt the green-scaled king when he was on guard, it could stop him. Time and distance were what Night Sorrow needed the most. Seeing the blue poisonous smoke blocking his path and the unstable spatial barrier, the green-scaled king was stunned. He could not leave through the spatial barrier area that Night Sorrow came out of. He could only stop and attack the spatial barrier twice. Then, he tore the spatial barrier and arrived at the boundless world to continue chasing Night Sorrow. However, at this time, Night Sorrow had already flown a distance away. The spatial barrier of the boundless soul world was not far away. Night Sorrow knew that his safety was in front of him. According to the distance and time calculation, Night Sorrow would definitely tear the spatial barrier and enter the small space world before the green-scaled king caught up. This king will kill you even if you have to go to the ends of the earth. The green-scaled king was very annoyed. To him, Night Sorrow was an ant. However, this ant could jump, and he could not stop it. There was still a distance from the spatial barrier. Night Sorrow's spatial crack slashed out. After cutting open the spatial barrier, he entered without slowing down. Without waiting for the spatial barrier that Night Sorrow flattened to stabilize, the green-scaled king slashed open the spatial barrier and entered the spatial turbulence to continue the chase. Break! Night Sorrow used the spatial crack again and cut open the spatial barrier of the small space world. Then, he entered the small space world. After entering the spatial world, Night Sorrow's body drew an arc and landed beside the mysterious Heaven Lord. At this time, the spatial barrier was broken and the green-scaled king also rushed into the small space world. After entering the small space world, the green-scaled king was dumbfounded. This was because a row of people stood in front of him, and he could not see their cultivation clearly. Lords, this is a misunderstanding. I will leave immediately. The green-scaled king stammered. However, the spatial crack had already been flattened by the mysterious Heaven Lord. What's the situation with Night Sorrow? The mysterious Heaven Lord asked. This fella has been chasing me for half a month. Fortunately, I ran quickly. Otherwise, I would have been killed by him. Night Sorrow said, I didn't know he was your man. I am very sorry. I will leave now. The green-scaled king's forehead was covered in sweat, and his body kept bowing. After chasing you for half a month, you can go and die. The mysterious Heaven Lord waved his arm, and a black-purple crescent moon slash was sent out, killing the green-scaled king. Brothers, we will meet again if we have the chance. The mysterious Heaven Lord waved his sleeves and left with the people from the mysterious Heaven world. At this time, he did not ask Night Sorrow anything. With so many sovereigns around, the soul cultivation liquid was a fat piece of meat. How could he ask a pack of wolves? How would Night Sorrow reply? After leaving the small spatial world, the group returned to the mysterious Heaven world after a few teleportations. After reaching the mysterious Heaven world, the mysterious Heaven Lord released the people from the mysterious celestial realm and looked at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow nodded slightly. You can all go back. Go to the mysterious Heaven Palace later to find the Royal Lord and receive the rewards you deserve. The mysterious Heaven Lord nodded to Qian, Qianwei, and the others. Brother Night Sorrow, come to my residence later. You can eat and drink. This is a must. Qian Qianwei looked at Night Sorrow and said, forever free of charge? Sister Qianwei, don't worry. I will definitely go, as long as the food is ready. Night Sorrow said with a smile. Qian Qianwei nodded to Night Sorrow and left with her people. Qian Yu even waved at Night Sorrow. The mysterious Heaven Lord brought Night Sorrow to a courtyard in the mysterious Heaven Mountain in the mysterious Heaven City. Lord Monarch, here are the 3 drops of soul cultivation liquid that you need. Night Sorrow took out a bottle and placed it on the stone table in front of the two. The mysterious Heaven Lord took the bottle, and after taking a deep breath, he opened it. I didn't expect you to be able to obtain this treasure. Night Sorrow nodded. It was not easy. It was almost a gamble with his life. The mysterious Heaven Lord placed 2 king-grade teleportation crystals in front of Night Sorrow. Chapter 1062. Thank you, Lord Monarch. Night Sorrow kept the king-grade teleportation crystal in his storage ring. Regardless of whether you obtained the soul cultivation fluid or not, I would have given you the teleportation crystal. Because of you, our profound sky world did not suffer any losses. Just based on this, the teleportation crystal should be yours. Now that I have taken your soul cultivation fluid, I owe you a favor. If you need any help or have any difficulties, come and find me. However, there is one thing you must understand. I do not wish to attack my own people from the profound sky world, the mysterious Heaven Monarch said. Don't worry, Lord Monarch. I will take care of the Sky South Dynasty myself. When the time comes, please do not interfere. They owe me too much. Night Sorrow understood what Lord Monarch meant. He did not want to make a move on the people of the Sky Mystic world. In other words, he did not want to help Night Sorrow deal with the Sky South Dynasty. I am happy. You have earned big this time, right? Lord Monarch Xiantian said with a smile. His heart was tense just now because the soul cultivation liquid was too important. Now that he had calmed down, he was happy. Not bad. Night Sorrow smiled. He knew that there were some things that could not be hidden. Lord Monarch Xiantian naturally knew that he had gained a lot from the soul cultivation liquid. You are honest enough. Do you want to drink wine or tea? Lord Monarch Xiantian asked with a smile. Tea. I have some good tea this time. Lord Monarch, please have a taste. I have not tasted it yet. Night Sorrow took out the soul cultivation tea. Night Sorrow had already fried the soul cultivation tea. On the way out of the immeasurable cliff, he had fried it and put it in a jade jar. Good tea. What kind of good tea have I not tasted? Drink mine. King Xiantian looked at Night Sorrow with a smile. Lord Monarch, you have not drunk this tea before. You will regret it if you don't drink it. Night Sorrow said with a smile. Tea in a jade jar. It looks like you value it a lot. Let me try yours, Black Heaven King said as he looked at the tea jar in Night Sorrow's hand. After that, Night Sorrow brewed a pot of soul-nourishing tea. After spending so much time with people like Shui Shi and Zhu Jian, who paid attention to their daily lives, Night Sorrow's skill in brewing tea was top-notch. The tea was ready in just a few moments. Xiantian Monarch and Night Sorrow slowly sipped their tea. Then, they both closed their eyes quietly. Because of the soul-nurturing tea, the energy was nourishing their souls. 2 hours later, Lord Xiantian opened his eyes. However, Night Sorrow was still meditating. 4 hours later, Night Sorrow also opened his eyes. Your soul power foundation is not bad. Black Heaven Monarch nodded at Night Sorrow. It's fine. Lord Monarch, this tea is good, right? Night Sorrow said with a smile. That's right. Let me ask you something. I can confirm that you still have the soul cultivation liquid and soul cultivation tea. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you for your treasures? Black Heaven Monarch asked. I'm not afraid. There are people who can kill me, but it will be very difficult to steal my treasures, Night Sorrow said with a smile. It seems like you have a lot of trump cards. Since you are so confident, I believe you, Black Heaven Monarch said. It's mainly because I believe in you, Lord Monarch. Knight Sorrow nodded at Black Heaven Monarch. Right. Have you thought about where to set up the inter-realm teleportation formation? Choose a good place. I hope to see the rise of the Nine Regions world. Black Heaven Monarch changed the topic. Knight Sorrow had no idea where to set up the inter-realm teleportation formation. In the end, Black Heaven Monarch gave Knight Sorrow a suggestion. It was the Seven Knights Mountain. That was an empty area in the celestial realm. After conversing with Monarch Xiantian for a while, Yishang left. Monarch Xiantian gave Yishang a piece of advice. Yishang had to stabilize himself before entering the Sovereign King realm or hide first. There were too many people who wanted to make a move on him now. Knight Sorrow knew that this was a sincere advice. Many monarchs might want to kill him. Even if they didn't know he had the soul cultivation liquid, they would still be suspicious. Therefore, it was normal for them to look for him. After having a big meal at Thousand Wild Roses Mansion, Yishang left Xiantian City for Big Dipper City and returned to the Celestial Master Pavilion. Seeing Knight Sorrow return, Xue Shi, Zhu Jiuyun, and Wu Lingfei were very happy. Knight Sorrow had returned safely from a dangerous mission. Yishang had just sat down when Bei Xing arrived. You rascal, you came back without a word. I just came back. My but hasn't warmed up yet, Knight Sorrow said with a smile. Has the matter been resolved? Bei Xing asked. Yes, it has been resolved. Also, I have to leave for a while. Knight Sorrow thought for a moment and said, Why do you have this idea? It can't be that you're afraid of bringing trouble to us, right? Bei Xing looked at Yishan in surprise. No, I have something to do. I want to build a city. Knight Sorrow spoke his mind. Bei Xing was sincere to him as a friend, so he treated him with sincerity. Building a city? That's a good idea. I can help you with anything. Bei Xing was very excited after hearing Knight Sorrow's words. There's really no need for that. After I set up the teleportation formation, I'll get someone else to do it. By the way, is there anyone watching us now? Knight Sorrow asked. No. Since the Infinite Soul Realm incident, there's been no one watching us in Big Dipper City. Bei Xing said. Then, Knight Sorrow brought Bei Xing, Xue Shi, and the other girls to Seven Night Mountain. Seven Night Mountain was a chain of mountains. The mountains towered into the clouds and were boundlessly magnificent. What a beautiful place. Why didn't I notice it before? Bei Xing said excitedly. The few of them surveyed the terrain and chose the location of the city to be built. Then, Knight Sorrow set up the teleportation formation and placed the King Grade teleportation crystal on it. The mysterious Heaven Sovereign's piece could be cut into two parts. In other words, it could be teleported to two distant worlds. In addition, the No Beginning Sovereign's piece was big. It could be cut into two main bodies and 4 or 5 parts. Knight Sorrow placed a big piece on the teleportation formation because it was enough for the 9-domain world to lead to here. All future development would start from here. Then, Knight Sorrow waved the sky splitter on the smoothest cliff of Seven Night Mountain and left 3 words, Seven Night City. Are we returning to the 9-domain world now? Shueshi looked at Knight Sorrow and asked, It might be dangerous. There will probably be people waiting in BG City. This time, I've caused a lot of trouble. Knight Sorrow said, Don't worry. Enter the spatial treasure and I'll bring you there. Even if there are people waiting, they can't let go of me. That will be a war between factions. Bei Xing said with a smile. All right, Bei Xing, I formally invite you to be a guest in my hometown. Knight Sorrow looked at Bei Xing and said, Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, Chapter 1-inch Great. I'll take a look at your hometown. You should start building Seven Night City as soon as possible. I'm looking forward to the rise of the 9-domain world in Seven Night City. Bei Xing said. She was more excited than Knight Sorrow. Chapter 1063. After that, Bei Xing brought Long Ding to the 2 Extreme Cities teleportation array. The guards of the 2 Extreme Cities teleportation array stopped Bei Xing. I want to go to the 9 Regions world. I'm Knight Sorrow's friend. Bei Xing said. Hearing that he was Night Sorrow's friend, the guards let him go because Yin Tianpo's voice transmission had reached their ears. After 2 teleportations, Bei Xing arrived at the city in the sky. After exiting the city in the sky's teleportation array, Night Sorrow, Xueshi, and the others came out of Longding. Comfortable. Night Sorrow stretched his back. At this time, Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Aoi appeared in front of Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow did not say anything and went forward to hug each of them. Why did you come back? Yang Lei asked. Can you come back home and let me have a cup of tea first? All right, this is my friend Bei Xing. He's a very good friend. Night Sorrow introduced. The 3 sisters are so beautiful. Mei Lan, Qiu Ju, each has their own style. Night Sorrow, you're so lucky, Bei Xing said with a smile. After that, the group went to Night Sorrow's residence. Yang Lei also went to the space-time pagoda to inform those who had not broken through that Night Sorrow had returned. After a while, everyone who was cultivating in the space-time pagoda came out. Seeing Night Sorrow, everyone was very happy. Under his mother's Yu Qing's questioning, Night Sorrow told her about his situation in the sky profound world. Of course, he did not say anything about the dangerous things. After that, Night Sorrow told her about his thoughts and decision. Great. After we have our own city, we can establish a foothold in the sky profound world. Sky Underworld Saints said happily. Currently, we can only build and not make it public because we can't withstand the attacks of others. We can only wait for Night Sorrow to enter the King Realm. Zhu Jian said. That's right. We can't publicize it for now, but the construction of the city can begin, Night Sorrow said. Without a King Realm cultivator, we don't have enough confidence. I don't know how long it will take for our faction to have a King Realm cultivator. It's quite depressing, Jun Xuanji sighed. Haha, this is the situation that no one is clear about. If it wasn't for Yishang wanting to achieve greater things, he might have already entered the Sovereign King Realm. Wu Lingfei smiled and explained Yishang's situation. Hearing Wu Lingfei's words, everyone was stunned. In their eyes, the Sovereign King Realm was an unreachable realm. It was a realm that was very far away. In their hearts, the appearance of a Sovereign King in the 9 regions world was only a wish, a thought. But now, Wu Lingfei said that Yishan was already trying to break through. Night Sorrow is now a dual attribute half-step king. Once he takes another step forward, a king of the same level would be no match for him, Zhu Jiyun said. Good. Long Xianxing roared. This roar gave everyone a fright. Commander, leave the construction of a city to us. You can go and cultivate in peace, Long Xianxing said. Bijeng Unspecified Currency Version 1. After a discussion, everyone felt that it was suitable to place the transfer array in the city in the sky. This was because there were no outsiders here, and everyone was a core member of the 9 Realms world. Everyone agreed, and Yishang set up the inter-realm teleportation array not far from the side of the mansion. Night Sorrow set up a 1,000 derivation illusionary array outside the transfer array. At the same time, he told everyone that if anything happened, they just had to put in spirit stones and the array would activate. After installing the realm teleportation crystal, it lit up. Night Sorrow brought everyone to the 7 Nights Mountain to take a look. Everyone was very satisfied with this place and felt that it was suitable to build the base of the 9 Realms world here. Father, the transfer array is in the city in the sky, in the territory of the Night Moon Empire. There are more craftsmen in the Night Moon Empire building the 7 Night City, Night Sorrow said to Yi Wuyo. All right, that's not a problem. But building a city requires planning and resources, Yi Wuyo nodded. There are spirit stones in here. Father, take them and deal with them as you see fit. Night Sorrow took out 5 to 6 storage rings. Son, we can use the resources of a 9 Realms world directly, so we can't use the spirit stones, Yu Qing said with a smile. Night Sorrow, we can do this. Set up a secret transfer array in the Big Dipper City, and send your people there to purchase resources from other places, then bring them over, Bei Xing said. Yes, but the people who purchase the resources must be of a low cultivation level. If they're not strong enough, they will attract suspicion. Senior Long Xiansheng. You can arrange it as you see fit. But the people who have been to the Tianding Gate must not show themselves, or they will be targeted. Also, set up a normal transfer array to connect to other places. The transfer array is currently a secret of the Seven-Night City, so it must be hidden well, Night Sorrow said. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, everyone nodded. The transfer array is extremely valuable, and we cannot afford to lose it. Although there are rules of order that prevent the transfer array from being attacked, there must be people guarding it. If there is a problem, crush my spirit crystal. Night Sorrow gave a soul crystal to Long Xiansheng. Then, he changed to another area and set up another transmission array. Since the transmission crystals were installed, the transmission arrays were separated from the ordinary ones. This way it would be safer. Night Sorrow then asked Wu Lingfei and Zhu Juyun's clones to stay here. Originally, Night Sorrow wanted Xueshi to stay as well, but Xueshi was not willing. She felt that Night Sorrow should have someone by his side. Then, Night Sorrow, Bei Xing, and Xueshi left the Seven Nights Mountain and returned to the Big Dipper City. Under Bei Xing's suggestion, Night Sorrow set up a transfer array in Bei Xing's private residence. There were guards in Bei Xing's residence, and Bei Xing instructed them to destroy the transfer array if a stranger attacked this place. Not long after Night Sorrow set up the transfer crystal, Long Xiansheng, Xian Wenxiu, and the others arrived. Night Sorrow, one of your people should stay here. This way, it will be easier to identify the people entering and exiting the transfer array. The guards in my residence can fight, but they will not recognize your people, Bei Xing said. Then I will do it, Shang Luo said. Night Sorrow set up another transfer crystal on the transfer array in Bei Xing's residence. He wanted to set up a transfer array in the Sage Master Pavilion as well. This way, even if someone was watching him, he could return to the Nine Domains world without any problems. Night Sorrow felt that everything was almost done. He did not need to worry about the construction of the Seven-Night City anymore. Yishang calmed down in the Celestial Master Pavilion, but the rest of the world was not. The sovereigns were all wondering whether Yishang had obtained the soul cultivation liquid or not. Although they had guessed that Yishang's chances of getting it were slim, there was still a chance. If there were only 3 drops, then other than the Black Heaven Sovereign, no one else would have a chance. But what if there were more than 3 drops? When a sovereign went to another sovereign's world, there had to be an explanation. If a sovereign went to the Black Celestial Realm to look for Night Sorrow, the Black Heaven Sovereign would not tolerate it. The Tsangyan Lord was considering whether to declare war on the Celestial Wonders world. This was because one-on-one battles were useless. Previously, the Dark Heaven Lord did not participate in the battle, and he could not find Yishan. Now, it was even more unlikely. The second watch arrived. Chapter 1064. The Grey Cloud Sovereign did have this idea, but the consequences of starting a war between realms were very serious. He had to find allies. The Grey Cloud sect was not strong enough. The Grey Cloud Sovereign controlled a little more than half of the Sky Dome realm's strength, because the Grey Cloud Sovereign controlled a portion of the Sky Dome realm's elite forces. In comparison, the Xian Celestial Realm only had the Xian Tian Sovereign. The entire Xian Celestial Realm was under his control. The Grey Cloud sect could not fight against an entire realm. After thinking for a while, the Grey Cloud Sovereign teleported to the Moon Demon realm. As soon as the Grey Cloud Sovereign arrived, the Moon Demon Sovereign appeared. Of course, it was his soul clone. Grey Cloud, why have you come to my Moon Demon realm? The Moon Demon Sovereign asked. You haven't appeared recently because of the Nine Heavens realm's troubles. Do you want to be as strong as the Divine Firmament Sovereign? There is a chance now, the Grey Cloud Sovereign said. The Moon Demon Sovereign's face turned black when he heard the Grey Cloud Sovereign mention the Nine Heavens realm. He had lost a lot of face because of the 2 sovereigns of the Nine Heavens realm. Soul Cultivation Liquid. The Divine Firmament Sovereign is much stronger than us because he used the Soul Cultivation Liquid to nourish his soul. His soul power is strong, and the will of heaven and earth is more effective than us. However, We might have a chance now, the Gray Cloud Sovereign said. If there is such a good thing, you will fight for it yourself. Will you think about others? The Moon Demon Sovereign, am not someone you could order around. The Moon Demon Sovereign narrowed his eyes at the Gray Cloud Sovereign. The Gray Cloud Sovereign thought for a while and told the Moon Demon Sovereign everything. You mean there's a high possibility? The Moon Demon Sovereign asked after thinking for a while. The Gray Cloud sect will naturally fight against the Xian celestial realm. Do you think I will do it if there is no possibility? The Gray Cloud Sovereign said. Have you thought about it? If we join forces and declare war against the Xian celestial realm, won't Xian Tian find other allies? Qi Yu, Hai Lan, and Tung, she have a good relationship with him. I will not do it. You can go back. The Moon Demon Sovereign waved his hand at the Gray Cloud Sovereign. The Gray Cloud Sovereign exhaled deeply as he sat on the teleportation array and left. The Demon Moon Sovereign wasn't willing to form an alliance. His plan for a realm war could only go down the drain. The Moon Demon Monarch sneered as he watched the Tsangyan Monarch leave. He would never fight to the death with the mystic celestial realm. That would be a huge loss to himself. However, he would never let go of the opportunity to obtain the soul cultivation liquid. After returning to the Demon Moon Hall, the Demon Moon Monarch gathered his subordinates, the Beginner King, and ordered them to capture Night Sorrow at all costs. Demon Moon Monarch's 3 junior kings immediately accepted the order and went to the mystic celestial realm to look for Night Sorrow. After the Tsangyun Sovereign returned to the Tsangyun sect, he also made the same arrangements. Since the battle of forces could no longer continue, they could only continue with the one-on-one battles. However, he knew that the chances of success were very low. If Night Sorrow wanted to hide, it would be very difficult to find him. Furthermore, the Black Heaven Sovereign was also protecting him. Night Sorrow knew that the world would be very chaotic. Therefore, he and she stayed in the Sage Master Pavilion and lived a quiet life. Night Sorrow spent his days refining pills, refining weapons, and cultivating his combat skills. This was because he still needed to cultivate the combination of the 3 combat skills that he had just researched. There was still room for improvement. While she was taking care of Night Sorrow, she was also guiding Ning Yun and Qi Yue in their cultivation. Ning Yun and Qi Yue knew about the relationship between Shi and Night Sorrow. Although they were not husband and wife in name, they were no different from husband and wife. The two of them called Shi Aunt. Night Sorrow also frequently guided Ning Yun and Qi Yue in their cultivation. He would explain his recent cultivation of energy techniques to the two of them. Master, after reaching the Saint Realm, one has to rely on the power of laws to fight. Does that mean that energy techniques are useless? Qi Yue asked. In the past, I had the same idea as you. However, that is not the case. Let me demonstrate it to you. Night Sorrow said. In fact, after entering the Saint Realm, he had neglected the research and development of energy techniques. Night Sorrow pulled out the space splitter from behind him. With a shake of his hand, he executed the space-whirling dragon kill. The combination of shock wave and wave force attack blasted a black hole the size of a water tank in the space in front of him. Looking at the shocked Ning Yun and Qi Yue, as well as Shi, whose eyes were filled with astonishment, Night Sorrow waved his hand and flattened the black hole. Main page. First post, what kind of combat skill is this? Shi asked. Space Whirling Dragon Kill, Space Shockwave, and Desolation Shock Force. Night Sorrow said. These days, when he was cultivating, his energy was restrained. Therefore, Shi and the others did not know the power of the combat skills that Night Sorrow cultivated. Master, there was a mistake in my understanding. This is too powerful. I have to cultivate it. Qi Yue bowed to Night Sorrow. Take your time. It's fine as long as your understanding of the concept is correct. Night Sorrow said. After explaining the theory of energy exertion skills to Ning Yun and Qi Yue, Night Sorrow went to refine pills. He had collected a lot of pill materials in the Boundless Soul Realm. Half a month had passed. Ning Yun and Qi Yue planned to go out to gain experience because actual combat was the best way to temper people. Night Sorrow did not object to the two's experience. Night Sorrow also never objected to such things. What he could do was to guide them carefully and help them with some resources. Shortly after Ning Yun and Chiyue left, Bei Xing came. She told Night Sorrow that the primary king of the Demon Moon Realm, Gray Cloud Sect, and Elemental Spirit Realm had all arrived in the mysterious Celestial Realm. Their target was obviously Night Sorrow. All of this was within Night Sorrow's expectations. Now that he was back, whether he got the soul cultivation liquid or not, the other party would make plans according to what he got. Regarding this, Night Sorrow felt that there was no need to pay attention to it. The courtyard he lived in had an array formation that isolated probing. It was difficult for the other party to find him. He still needed to refine pills and refine tools. Bei Xing supported Night Sorrow's idea. If Night Sorrow did not act recklessly, there would not be any trouble. The Gray Cloud Sect did not get any benefits when they came to Big Dipper City last time. Now, they would not be too presumptuous in Big Dipper City. After 2 days of peace, Bei Xing brought news again. The news made Night Sorrow feel disgusted. The spies of the Sky South Dynasty had once again acted as the lackeys of the Gray Cloud Sect. Despicable people are really invincible. Shuexi's face was full of killing intent. Well, there'll be a day to deal with them, so don't worry. Night Sorrow was now used to the despicable conduct of the Sky South Dynasty. In addition, the primary king of the Scarlet Fire Sovereign has also come from the Scarlet Fire world. The mysterious celestial realm has really become the core of the turmoil. Bei Xing shook her head helplessly. Night Sorrow just smiled. The tree wants to be quiet, but the wind will not stop. This was the portrayal of his current situation. What could he do? The only thing he could do was to stabilize and wait for his main body to break through. After his main body broke through, Night Sorrow's doppelganger's fighting strength would increase. Don't worry. The mysterious Heaven Sovereign has given the order. The Black Scale Army is already stationed at the teleportation array. Intermediate King can't enter. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.